The Marquis Renati's daughter disappeared without a trace. People long hoped she would be found, but Arabella Renati never set foot in her home or returned to her family. However, the news that the Marquis continued to search for his missing daughter attracted countless imposters, each of whom tried to impersonate her. The despair in the house grew with each passing day, and one day the brunette entered her mother's room, feeling a heavy and oppressive atmosphere. She asked if she would be having dinner, after which the woman turned her gaze to Anita and noticed that she lived in luxury that many could only dream of. Then the mother remembered Arabella again, asking where she was now and what had happened to her, after which she told the girl to go to her room. Anita was slightly confused and, out of habit, extended her hand to her mother, but she sharply pushed it away, not allowing her to get closer. The woman screamed, reminding him that she had ordered him to leave, and then turned away again, glancing at the blood and muttering that it was enough for the baby, again mentally addressing Arabella. Everything that surrounded Anita was originally meant to belong to someone else. The family couldn't be left without an heir, so after the loss of their first daughter, another girl was born into the family, and she became Anita. The parents believed that loving a child born out of despair was the only way to love them. It meant betrayal to their first daughter and to all the people who yearned for Arabella. Only one person noticed Anita. It was a young man with blonde hair. Now he greeted the young lady, making it clear that this was Axion, the heir of Archduke Rakid and her fiancé. He was also her only friend, because her parents, absorbed in the search for their beloved daughter, hardly noticed Anita. Axion proposed to her and invited her into his family, where the girl stopped being a shadow, as if she had stolen everything from Arabella and could simply be herself. But, as if God had heard the parents' desperate prayers, a long time later, a lady with snow-white hair returned to the house. She was able to confirm her identity thanks to an imperial gift she received as a child. And so the real Arabella Renati returned to the house. She was found 12 years later, and that's when everything changed. Soon the girl's room began to be furnished, and the butler said that all this time she had lived in harsh conditions, so the maids should have brought warm-colored wallpaper so that Arabella would feel safe. When the lady sat at the table, her parents offered her a wide variety of dishes, and her father even promised that he would allocate twice as much money to the kitchen. While trying on dresses, her parents assured her that they would buy her outfits more luxurious than Anita's, and that all the family jewels should rightfully belong to her, because that was how it was intended from the start. The main character gradually realized that her parents were trying to give Arabella the best of everything, and it got to the point that they started taking things away from Anita. One day, while passing by the room where her parents were, the girl overheard a conversation about how to break off Anita's engagement to the Archduke's son. She was shocked by what she heard, and her father claimed that the marriage proposal had already been accepted, and if it was broken. The mother recalled that the Archduke had initially sent the proposal to the daughter of the Marquis Renati, and if Arabella had not disappeared, she would have become the bride, so the engagement had to be broken off so that Arabella could take her place. The Marquis thought for a moment, but his wife immediately cried out, insisting that they had to give the best to their daughter. She was angry and deeply annoyed, believing that all of this had always belonged to Arabella, and that Anita was shamelessly using what was not intended for her. After this, the man hugs his wife, making it clear that he completely shares her opinion, and admits that from the very beginning he was against the union of Anita and Axion, not wanting to see this marriage take place. He says Arabella deserves more, and he's willing to do anything for her. Anita, however, is obligated to help him manage the family's affairs, so he has no intention of letting her go. After some time, the Archduke notices Anita's thoughtfulness, noting that they haven't seen each other for a long time, and she seems to be hovering somewhere far away from what is happening. The girl apologizes and explains that she has been extremely busy lately, and therefore has not had the opportunity to meet with him often. At that very moment, there was a knock on the door, and the blonde man asked if the young lady was expecting anyone. She replies that he already knows the answer, but then another knock is heard. Then Anita rises from her seat and says she'll be back soon. She heads towards the door, and opening it, sees her mother and sister standing in front of her. The woman states that Anita should introduce Archduke Rakid's son to Arabella. After all, she's her older sister, and he'll probably be curious about her. At the same time, they understand that this woman is capable of taking anything from her. After all, in reality, it never belonged to her. But she is not going to give up the person dear to her heart for anything. Just not Axion, because she won't give him up under any circumstances. At this point, the blonde man asks Anita if someone really has arrived. The girl simply repeats that she will be back soon, after which she goes out into the corridor and carefully closes the door behind her. The woman immediately asks what exactly she is doing, but Anita briefly replies that she does not want to do this. The Marquise, shocked, asks what they are talking about, but Anita bluntly states that she has no intention of introducing her sister to Axion, and she won't do it. Then the woman indignantly asks how she even dares to say such a thing. She screams, claiming that Anita has always been like this. Arabella tries to calm her mother. However, the woman orders Arabella to wait, stating that she must scold Anita first and yelling at her how much longer she will behave like a child. She asks if she feels sorry for her own sister, but the young lady responds by wondering what pity has to do with it. After all, according to her, it is extremely impolite to burst in during tea drinking and burden others with your requests. She then asks her mother if she understands how rude it is of her, but the woman only screams at Anita. How dare she say that? She also reproaches her for being selfish and for not wanting to share anything with her sister. At this point, the blonde lady turns to her mother and asks her not to yell at Anita, but suddenly the girl becomes ill and falls to the floor. The Marquise immediately catches her daughter and begs her to come to her senses. The main character only says that she will call a doctor and immediately sets off to look for him. Turning the corner, she bumps into the maid, who asks in amazement if it is Miss Anita. She asks where the lady is in such a hurry, and the brunette asks her to call a doctor immediately, to which the maid asks if anyone has become ill. After this, the young lady states that Arabella lost consciousness near the living room on the first floor, and did not come to for a long time. The maid is in complete shock, drops the vase from her hands. It falls to the floor with a dull sound, after which the girl immediately rushes for the doctor. They both understand that on the day Arabella returned, the doctor assured her that everything was perfectly fine with her health. Therefore, the girl cannot understand why her sister lost consciousness and what exactly happened to her at that moment. However, when she approaches the door, she notices that there is no one there anymore, after which the young lady only hesitates and wonders if all this was done on purpose. At this time, the lady with blonde hair sits opposite the Archduke and also apologizes for appearing without any warning. After this, she claims that Anita will come soon, to which the guy only calmly replies that he understands. Arabella realizes that her mother told her about his good manners and good breeding, but he still makes her uneasy. She herself did not expect that she would lose consciousness, and her mother was probably very scared for her. It's good that she came to her senses quickly enough, and when the lady with the blonde hair finally came to, she immediately asked where Anita was. But the woman told Arabella not to think about her, and to tell her how she felt now. After this, she added that it was a wonderful opportunity and invited the girl to go inside and say hello to the Archduke's son. The young lady nevertheless inquired about her sister's condition, to which the woman replied that she would appear soon, so there was no need to delay. And now the blonde lady wonders if Anita was right and if he was angry because she came in unannounced. It's hard for her to even breathe in this place, and she wants to leave as soon as possible, but she remembers her parents. Words about how she absolutely must please the Archduke. She has to be nice and polite, so now she thinks she has no right to disappoint their expectations. After this, the lady turns to the Archduke and again apologizes if she has caused any inconvenience with her appearance. The guy replies that she shouldn't apologize since she didn't end up here of her own free will. Arabella is a little surprised and wonders if he really heard the conversation outside the door, and the guy meanwhile says that, as already mentioned, Anita should be back soon. Arabella notices that the Archduke's face changes noticeably when this name is mentioned. At this time, the main character stands at the door and wonders if Arabella really did this on purpose. And did she pretend to lose consciousness in order to deceive her and be left alone with Axion? The girl recalls how her mother reproached her, asking why she was so selfish and did not want to share with her sister. Anita thinks that perhaps this was her mother's idea again, because she always strives to give the best to her beloved daughter. All the inhabitants of this estate treat her with hatred, as if she took away from Arabella everything that belonged to her, and yet does not feel guilty. The girl wonders if she really has to constantly give in and deny herself in order to be accepted in this house. After this, the young lady finally decides to knock on the door and realizes that the only person who was truly hers was Axion. When she enters the room, the guy immediately looks at her with a slight smile on his face. The young lady's sister also rises from her seat, quickly approaches her and asks if she is very surprised, after which she apologizes. The main character wonders if the girl really came back just to take away from her what always belonged only to her. Then why is she looking at her with such a warm smile? At this point, Arabella asks her sister where she's been, adding that she's been waiting for her return all this time. She turns to Anita again, but she only replies that the girl can go, and Anita, with a slight smile, asks again whether she is really allowed to leave. Afterwards, she whispers her thanks to the young lady, admitting that she was actually very scared. When Arabella leaves the room, she still smiles and wishes Anita a good rest. The main character reflects on how strange everything that is happening seems, because it was Arabella who lived in harsh conditions all this time, while she herself grew up calmly and in abundance. But the brunette still can't understand why this girl looks much more cheerful and naive than she does. After this, the young lady turns to the Archduke and apologizes for the rude behavior of her parents. The blonde man replies that everything is fine, and the young lady adds that, in her opinion, they should finish drinking tea. The young man agrees, then gets up from his chair and approaches Anita, noting that he would like to continue their conversation. He tells her to come to him herself next time, and asks if she will be able to do it. The main character thinks that her dear friend seems to be hinting to her about the possibility of leaving this house. However, he insists that he will send her an invitation tomorrow afternoon. Anita understands that with Arabella's return, everyone has decided that her presence in this house no longer serves a purpose. Now she can escape to a place where she'll truly be welcome. After a while, the fair-haired lady sits at the table. Her father asks her if she likes the food, and the girl replies that everything is very tasty. The woman tells her to eat more because she looks too thin. Meanwhile, the main character also begins to eat. The sister, glancing at her plate, asks whether Anita really doesn't like steak at all, or whether she's so strict about her figure because she looks so great. At this point, the Marquise turns to Arabella and says that Anita always ate very little, so she shouldn't worry about her sister, but rather think about herself. Her father also agrees, adding that it wouldn't hurt for the girl to gain a little weight. Anita apologizes and says she will try, but the woman immediately asks why she has to apologize at all, since she is not to blame for anything. The Marquis also states that this is their fault, because while the girl was starving, they did not deny themselves anything. After this, they ask Anita if she agrees with this, but the girl only remains silent in response. Then the father says that he heard about how she behaved with Arabella recently. He raises his voice, reproaching her for her manners and asking how she dares to treat her older sister like that. He continues that while Anita lived in luxury and ate her fill, her sister was forced to look for food on the streets and asks if she is ashamed of this. The main character finishes her salad at this time and says that she understands their sense of responsibility. However, she adds that she shouldn't shift the blame onto her. After these words, the man screams, outraged at how Anita dares to speak to him. Then the main character gets up from her seat and declares that 3 of them will be enough for a game of 7, so she will go to her room. The Marquise is angry at this answer and sharply orders the girl to immediately return and sit in her place. But the girl pays no attention to their words, after which the Marquis abruptly rises from the table and loudly calls out to Anita, not hiding his irritation. Arabella is startled by this sudden cry and, in surprise, awkwardly touches the plate, knocking it over out of fear. The woman immediately turns to her husband and asks him to speak more quietly, reminding him that Arabella is nearby and that she is very frightened by such outbursts. The blonde lady rushes to apologize, but her father says that everything is fine and asks his daughter to forgive him because he was not angry with her at all. He was only worried that Anita's behavior might upset the girl, so he asks her not to take his harsh words too seriously. After all, Anita had a difficult and complex character since childhood. At this point, the main character leaves the dining hall. Arabella watches this gaze in silence, while the Marquise quietly turns to her husband, doubting whether he will leave Anita without some kind of punishment. After this, he calls the maid and tells her to tell Anita to come to his office no later than an hour. Sometime later, while in the library, the main character realizes that she was given exactly 1 hour. However, she is sure that he will take much longer to deal with his daughter, so the girl wonders whether she should read about the founder of the empire. The plot of this book is not what she would call exciting, but she loves it for the mention of Lake Alkente. This place is considered to be the very one where the magical beast appeared, which helped the first emperor create the empire. When the girl thinks about this, she feels calmer, because the one she met there comes to mind. Then the young lady met a boy with such bright eyes that even the blue surface of the lake seemed colorless against their background. 7 years ago, the girl sat at the table with other ladies, and at that time she was only 10 years old. One of them said that the daughter of the Marquis Renati spends her days looking at the lake, and she probably found their company boring. This girl's name was Rachel Sauvier, and she was the eldest daughter of Count Sauvier. The main character replied that this was not true at all, after which her friend asked what they were talking about, but the brunette said nothing. Then she decided with a smile that she understood everything, noticing that the heroine was not participating in the conversation, and mentioned that the conversation was about the name of the plant that Lowena was interested in. The flower was of unearthly beauty and had a pleasant aroma, so she hoped she could be of use. Rachel thanked the young lady for the hint, and the main character was just wondering when this tea party would end. She also knew that the park by Lake Alkente was very popular among the nobility, and that they often gathered there. The daughters of aristocrats hosted tea parties, and she had been invited to one of them today, although she had another reason for her visit. At that moment, the girl looked up at the sky and heard a voice saying that this lady was staring at her. Therefore, the young lady should try to get closer to her, because the girl sitting next to her is clearly eager to communicate. Anita believed it was not her who was seeking friendship, but her family. She also understood that this tiny particle of light was a lower-level spirit that only she could see. They met 2 years ago right there, and every time the girl approached Lake Alkente, she began to clearly hear his voice, which became the reason for her frequent visits to this place. The young lady kept this secret to herself, knowing that if her parents found out, she would be forced to immediately look for her sister. At the same time, the girl was surprised how she was able to speak with the spirit at all, since no one else suspected the existence of this entity. Suddenly, the spirit spoke to Anita, saying that someone had fallen into the lake. The young lady looked around for someone older who could help, but the spirit insisted that there was no one nearby and the victim was unconscious, so urgent help was needed. Anita hesitated to persuade the others to take a walk, but she understood that by the time they reached the shore, a person could drown. Realizing that she wouldn't be able to explain what was happening to anyone, she decided that she would have to act on her own. She announced that she would go check the lake, after which she hurried to where the spirit pointed to the place where the man was. The girl realized that the victim might have already gone underwater and began to take off her shoes. Anita asked the spirit to call everyone so they would notice her shoes. The spirit was surprised and said it was worth waiting. At that moment, the girl resolutely jumped into the water and headed towards the lady with blonde hair. She knew she couldn't lift it alone and was surprised why no one had come to her aid yet. If the situation continued like this, they both risked falling into eternal sleep. Suddenly, the girl felt a rush of water. A column of water appeared out of nowhere and saved them. Anita couldn't comprehend what was happening, but she realized that she had no choice but to accept the situation. At this moment, servants hurried toward her grace. One of them cried out that Archduke Rekid was approaching and ordered everyone to retreat. The girl recalled the legends and myths about this lake, going deep into the history of the empire, and understood that such anomalies were quite possible. Suddenly, someone turned to her with gratitude, admitting that he did not know how to thank her. The boy identified himself as Axion Rekid and expressed gratitude for her saving his mother. Anita replied that no thanks were required, realizing that this was their first meeting. She didn't tell him her name, but he soon sent a letter, beginning their story. Now the young lady looked at her watch and realized that it was time to go, after which she went down the stairs. As she approached her parents' room, she heard her mother report that Arabella had lost her memory today and the doctor could not find an explanation. They had to hurry and break off Anita's engagement, because rumors about their daughter's illness could ruin the wedding. At this time, the Marquis claimed that a prince would suit Arabella, but the woman asked if he meant that prince, the same one who is famous for his cruelty and penchant for dissolute living, and it is also unknown whether the fate of the empress will repeat itself. Therefore the prince is not suitable for Arabella. She must be given the true love she has been searching for all her life, even after marriage. The man then proposed a plan, send Anita to the Empress. If she became a contender for the prince's heart, the engagement would automatically become impossible, and then they would call off the marriage, citing her previous engagement. The woman approved of the idea, and the main character thought that all her efforts for this family now seemed in vain. The situation even made her smile, and only now did she understand why her father was so confident. After all, on that day the girl saved the Archduchess, and now her father pretends to control everything, including her future marriage. Anita wondered if her father had decided that she should remain loyal to the family simply because of the family name and their expectations. She smiled, realizing that none of them had ever considered her to be the real Renati. Her appearance was different from her parents, and there were many rumors about her origins. As she moved further, the girl heard two maids discussing her strange behavior. One claimed that Miss Arabella had inherited her parents' traits, but Miss Anita was completely different, and everyone kept silent about it. However, she understood that something was clearly wrong, and perhaps she had common blood in her veins. Suddenly, the maid looked up and saw Mistress Anita standing before her. The brunette declared that the servant had overstepped her bounds. She was perplexed by how such thoughts could be openly expressed in this estate, and ordered them to immediately pack their things and leave. The brunette also promised to personally inform her mother that she had dealt with the impudent maid who dared to insult the owners. The girl suddenly cries out, admitting her mistake, and begs her mistress to forgive her. The protagonist merely notices that more and more people are beginning to doubt her origins and wonder about her true role. If she continued to do nothing, Arabella would take everything from her: her position, her engagement, her future, and also to Axion. But the girl understands that she will not allow them to control her and defend her freedom. A little later there is a knock on the young lady's room, and she tells them to come in. A pink-haired maid entered and informed the miss that Knight Rick Elmont of the Ricade Order had arrived. Anita realized that her maid, Hari, was the only one in this estate who genuinely treated her kindly. Perhaps this is because Hari gives her valuable gifts. The protagonist takes her hairpin and comments that the maid has proven herself worthy. She hands Hari the hairpin, saying it's a reward for her efforts, hoping she'll like the gift. The maid thanks the miss, genuinely pleased by the attention. Hari also thinks that she is lucky to serve Miss Anita, because if she were under Miss Arabella's management, she could only dream of such gifts. The generous and attentive mistress seems much better to her than the simple and stern Arabella. Arabella grew up among the common people. She is smart and insightful, while Miss Anita is like a rare flower in a greenhouse, not knowing the cruelty of the world. The maid still finds it strange that her mistress didn't pat her on the head today and feels a little offended. Meanwhile, the main character enters a person's room and announces the visit of the Knight Elmont. The young man says they haven't seen each other in a while and asks how she's doing. His name is Rick Elmont, second in command. The main character mentions that she heard about his recent return from the north, but did not expect that he would personally bring her a letter. Rick replies that he wanted to greet her personally and volunteered to come. The protagonist notes the nobility of his action and thanks him. She sits down on a chair and asks if the knight had managed to complete his business in the north. He replies that the problems were minor and quickly resolved. He admits that it took him a long time to get used to the harsh cold. The Northern Territory is familiar to every resident of the empire. Even in summer, it's as cold there as in winter. Nothing grew on the poor soil, not even weeds, but the precious stones mined there attracted great attention. The imperial family handled this, but when problems arose, the Archduke's knights were sent north. The girl once asked the Archduke why his family unquestioningly followed the emperor's orders, since they were not obliged to do so. The young man replied that they were looking for the things they needed in the north, and this allowed them to achieve their goal without arousing the emperor's suspicions. There is no point in turning down such an opportunity if it can be beneficial. The main character is curious whether he managed to find what he was looking for, and she is glad that the knight managed to arrive before the onset of winter. She asks if he'll return to the Archduchy. Rick replies no, he needs to report to the emperor. At this point, someone cries out in surprise at the arrival of a man from the Archduchy of Rakid and asks why the visit was not announced earlier. The woman orders the servant to quickly open the door, and he informs the main character that the mistress wishes to meet her. The young lady orders her to be let in, after which the woman who entered asks why Anita did not warn about the visit, hoping that she was not intruding. The girl thinks about what kind of actress she is since she came knowing everything in advance. The knight says he is glad to welcome Ms. Renati and reminds her that he is the second in command of the Ricade Knights. His name is Rick Elmont. The woman asked in surprise if it was really the deputy commander himself, since she hadn't expected that. She could hardly believe that he would be the one to hand her the invitation to tea, and added that he was wasting his energy. The guy replied that any knight would gladly carry out this order, because it directly concerns Miss Anita. The woman asked if this was true, and admitted that she had not thought that Anita maintained close ties with the Order of Knights. Rick explained that Anita was close not only to them, but also to people who did not live in the Ricade estate at all. She had saved one of their family members. The woman then clarified whether this was really a case from 8 years ago, and added that it was not Anita, but the doctor, who played the key role in it. The knight looked sternly at the woman, and she only asked if this was the invitation. She reached for the envelope and remarked that she was curious about what the Archduke's son had written. The main character immediately snatched the invitation, apologized to her mother, and admitted that she didn't want to read someone else's letter until she had the right to do so herself. When the young lady opened the envelope, she smelled the delicate scent of roses and realized that Axion had placed petals inside, which touched her deeply. The letter stated that he wanted to have a tea party in the garden of their estate and would be glad if Anita would join him. The young lady immediately told the knight to tell the Archduke that she agreed to come. At this point, the mother realized that Arabella should also be sent to tea. If the Archduke saw her, it would become clear that Anita was much better in comparison. The woman admitted that she was very worried about Arabella, and noted that Rick probably understood this too. She explained that Arabella had not been accustomed to noble society since childhood, unlike Anita, and the young lady thought how much her mother wanted to see her daughter as Axion's bride. The girl decided to at least let her sister dream, adding that she could take her with her and asking if she would be happy. The woman assured her that, of course, she would be. The young lady turned to the knight, asking if he had any objections, and the boy said that if that was what the miss wanted, he would agree to everything. He then announced that it was time for him to go to the palace, and with her permission he was going to leave. The girl wished him a safe journey, and the mother noted that she was glad to see him. When the knight left, the woman turned to Anita and offered to talk privately, asking if the girl had fired the maids without permission today. She exclaimed that her subordinate was among them, and was indignant that Anita dared to do such a thing. The main character replied that the maids dared to insult their masters, and it was impossible to trust them with anything. The woman noted that one cannot simply fire employees at will, but the young lady explained that she did so for her mother's sake, as she disliked such people. The girl added that such employees should not remain on the estate, and the woman did not know what to answer, but just nodded. She decided to forgive the girl this time, because there were more important things to do, and the young lady asked what this important matter was. The mother explained that in 10 days Arabella would have an audience with the Empress, and Anita should accompany her so that the girl would feel at ease at such an important event. The main character realized that the woman was going to propose her candidacy when the conversation turned to the prince's marriage. If the Empress herself intervenes, the engagement with Axion could fall through instantly, and Arabella would not have to marry this man. The young lady asked her mother whether she should first obtain the Empress's permission. The woman replied that she had already received consent and began to talk about the young lady's upcoming engagement. She also asked if the girl realized that this place originally belonged to Arabella and advised her to stop deluding herself and behave calmly. Meanwhile, in the Duchy of Ricade, a blonde woman approached the Archduke, claiming to have heard of his visit to Anita. The girl asked if there had been any changes between them, to which the guy replied in the negative. She noted that everything seemed to remain the same. She also recalled that someone had once told her about it, that when she came of age, she planned to move far away from here. The woman wondered if she really wanted to sever family ties. Thinking about what the girl was going through at home, she began to understand her. The blonde then asked if the young lady would like to live with them until she came of age. The protagonist thanked him for the offer, but noted that it would be irresponsible to her family. The blonde understood that she had offered her this more than once, but the girl had always refused, and now she did not want to burden her. The woman claimed that she wanted to save Anita. The Archduke asked if she was worried, to which the blonde replied in the negative, admitting only regret that she had not brought her when she could. That same evening, the young lady sat in her room, remembering how her mother had said that she had been behaving too rudely lately. So now she had to have dinner in her room. She understood that just yesterday they had all been told that for Arabella's sake the whole family should gather at the same table. She thought about how fickle their views were. At this time, someone else entered the room and said that the gentleman was calling her into his office. It turned out to be Philip, the Renati family's butler. The young lady rose and agreed to go. Before leaving, she asked if the butler had anything important to say. He explained that the gentleman wanted to entrust his affairs to her. The girl was surprised. Was it really happening again? To which the butler remarked that the gentleman was neglecting this himself, and the lady was still too young, and why didn't the gentleman and lady themselves take care of the business? The young lady just smiled and asked him not to continue. After all, these were the people he was obliged to serve, and she wondered if he understood how this could end for him, if the words reached his father. After all, then he will face shameful exile and loss of everything, so he should be careful. After this, the young lady moved on, and the butler obeyed her instructions. He understood that it was too early for him to leave, because he had to stay for the sake of his real mistress, Miss Anita. When the girl entered her father's office, he immediately dumped a mountain of papers on her, demanding that she sort them out. He reminded her that she hadn't been going anywhere lately, so 4 days should be enough. The young lady realized that after Arabella's return, she was forbidden to leave the house and communicate with other people. Now her father placed all responsibility on her. The girl began working with documents at the age of 12. She knew that the Renati family didn't need Anita, and 10 years ago she decided to cut off all ties with them, although she had tried her best up until that point. To this day, she helps her father with his business for the sake of the family's well-being. The girl wondered if she would have to do this for the rest of her life. At this time, the man was only interested in why she was silent, assuring her that anyone could handle it. He also asked if she thought it was an impossible task. However, the girl clarified whether this was really the case, and why then he didn't take on the matter himself. The young lady's father only cries out that he is raising her so that in the future she will be able to cope on her own and not depend on his help. The girl, openly doubtful, declares that if she ever becomes the mistress of the Reiki household, it doesn't mean others will do all the work for her. She recalls how her mother, as the mistress of the household, never once handled paperwork, and doubts the Reiki family is any different. These words infuriate her father, who exclaims how dare she contradict him. He believes she's already an adult and should be able to manage the family's affairs, but she insists she doesn't need to. Unlike his father, Axion will not shift his responsibilities onto her, because he is wise and knows his role perfectly well. So let the father, as the head of the family, deal with the documents himself. The man cries out again, wondering if she is acting this way because of Arabella's return, and what she is really like. After this, he orders her to go to her room and think about her behavior. The young lady replies that she was just about to do so and closes the door behind her. Remaining in the office, the man wonders how much longer he must tolerate this ungrateful girl. A little later, the young lady rides in a carriage, realizing that she knew about her mother's plans in advance. She realizes that her mother will send Arabella to the Archduchy by any means necessary, and remembers how her mother instructed her to help her sister if she was confused. The mother asked her if she understood it, and the young lady realizes that her premonition was correct. At this moment, the sister turns to her. When the young lady responds, Arabella becomes nervous, and the main character assures that if there is something to say, then one should speak more boldly. The young lady herself still hesitates to speak, and Anita wonders if she will continue to mumble. Finally, the blonde lady says she doesn't think like her mother and wants her sister and Axion to be happy. She admits that she is her sister, after all, and can't take the boy away from her. The main character asks what this word means to her, and the lady explains. In her opinion, happiness in a relationship means that even after a fight you can sleep peacefully, knowing that tomorrow everything will be fine. The young lady thinks this sounds strange and wonders if she has ever had such a relationship with someone. The fair-haired girl replies that she was taken in by a commoner family, raised, and is probably now living happily. Her father even sent them gold as a token of gratitude. Anita reflects that if this is true, they are lucky, but their parents are completely different. Arabella reassures her sister that she has no intention of marrying the Archduke. The main character asks if she told her mother about this, to which she is only surprised. The young lady then asks if she told the servants about this, and receives a negative answer. The brunette notices that her sister didn't even try to express her reluctance to a person who doesn't care about her opinion. She wonders if Arabella thinks everything will go as she plans, and that it is easy for her to say so. Soon they arrive at the place, and the young lady gets out of the carriage, leaving her sister there. They then head to the Archduchy's garden, where the blonde lady is amazed by the beauty and remarks how truly wonderful everything is there. Axion says that if he'd known the weather would be so nice, he would have suggested meeting near Lake Alkente. Well, the blonde lady insists she really likes it there too, and especially this flower, after which she asks if she can smell it. The main character looks at this and remembers that the scent of Lovin's flower is for Arabella. The lady with the blonde hair had already smelled the flower at this time and was a little surprised. Well, he still says what a lovely scent this flower has. The Archduke asks if it's true, and the main character realizes that her sister has turned pale, after which she asks if she is okay. But at that very moment, the lady collapses to the floor, unconscious. A short time later, the girl is already lying in bed, and then she opens her eyes, and the Archduke asks if she's come to her senses. The girl immediately jumps up and asks who it is. Well, then he wonders if it's Mr. Axion. The guy asks if the lady is okay. Well, he just asks where she is and why. The blonde insists that she lost consciousness, and the girl asks if this is true, to which he replies that it is, and asks how she feels. The blonde lady asks where Anita is. Axion replies that she's talking to the doctor about the lady's condition, and they'll be here soon, so she shouldn't worry. After that, silence falls between them. The lady at this time looks at the Archduke and remembers how her mother said that she thought he liked her daughter very much. But the girl understands that her mother is mistaken, because this guy's gaze shines only when he looks at Anita, and only next to her do his eyes sparkle. The young lady understands that her sister is a good person, even though she seems indifferent, and it is wrong for her to act this way because she wants Anita to be happy. After which the girl turns to Mr. Axion and claims that she likes Anita. That's why she wants her to be happy and swears to him that it is very important to her. At this time, the guy claims that he wants this too and, like no one else, wishes her happiness. After which, the young lady, with a smile on her face, understands that such a person can definitely make her sister happy. At this time, the young lady is talking to the doctor, and he dares to suggest that Miss Renati has an extreme sensitivity to the divine power. The main character wonders what this means, and the man claims that this is discovered in early childhood. But he thinks that she didn't have that opportunity due to the circumstances. Anita asks if he is sure, after which the man replies that all the doctors in the duchy have deep knowledge in the field of magic. And as she herself knows, the Archduke's family has long inherited divine power from mystical beings. Therefore, people who had no idea about this were not allowed to work in this way. The girl understands that perhaps he is right, because if it weren't for the doctor, the duchy would not even know about this, and this is difficult for ordinary doctors to understand. And the Marquis and Marchioness don't know anything about it yet, but perhaps the news has already reached them, and they're probably looking forward to their little girl. The main character then asks the doctor if the girl can handle the journey home, to which he replies that yes, and if you give her time to come to her senses, then there shouldn't be any problems. The young lady then says, let them prepare the carriage because it is time to return, and the doctor says that he will pass it on. After which the young lady approaches the room where her sister lies, and looking into it she is a little surprised. The Archduke at this time asserts that he too desires this more than anyone else. And the young lady, looking at how these two are smiling, thinks that they are right for each other. And even if her sister had not appeared, the break in the engagement with Axion was destined. 10 years ago, when she promised herself that after turning 18, she would cut off all ties with this family. And her engagement to Axion is not destined to happen, well, even if that's how it is with these two. Although they wanted to take away from her the only person who was on her side, and because of this, she was angry and also did not want to give in to them. The girl also understands that even if her engagement with Axion is broken, she hopes that he will remain with her as a friend. And she believes that their relationship will remain the same, but what if he suddenly turns away? What will she have left? A little while later, the Marquis asks how Arabella is feeling. His wife replies that she put her to bed and the girl fell asleep. Then the man bangs on the table, and he also screams, asking where Anita was at that time. The girl asks what she was supposed to do, and she's not a doctor, so how is she supposed to prevent fainting? After which, the Marquis says that Arabella is an unfortunate child and, unlike her, the girl grew up in terrible conditions and he knows very well how greedy Anita is. The young lady then interrupts her father and says she simply takes after him. The man then asks what she's talking about, to which the young lady replies that he drove away the people who raised Arabella because he did not want to give them even a small sum. After which the Marquis is surprised, and the main character says that Arabella thinks that he properly thanked those who sheltered her. Therefore, let them not try to pin the blame on her, because it was her mother who sent her there, knowing full well that she could lose consciousness, and after all this, she is to blame. The man then slaps his daughter, and the woman then approaches him in shock and asks if he has forgotten that the girl must go to the palace. The main character then realizes that she was wondering why her mother interfered and she didn't expect anything else. Therefore, this discourages her from telling them about the document that she discovered a couple of days ago while carrying out her father's instructions, and this matter won't affect her future in any way. The woman, meanwhile, cries out to her husband that he could beat the girl after returning from the palace, but he only shouts that he had to teach her a lesson so that she wouldn't dare again. The girl then interrupts her father and tells him to take better care of himself. A little while later, the maid is already applying ointment to her mistress's wound and says that her face is very swollen and that there might be a bruise in that place tomorrow. The maid also says that she definitely needs to put some meat on it to prevent it from appearing. But the main character asks, what if the cook catches her? She also tells the maid not to worry about the medicines. A bucket of tomorrow's lunch will be brought, and the maid then asks if it is true that Miss Arabella lost consciousness, and she's just worried because she suddenly fainted for no apparent reason. The young lady then wonders why they remember how she asked if the blonde did something with the flower. He replied that he needed to find out something and had infused some divine power into it, but he didn't think something like this would happen. Then the young man turned to the young lady, and he asked if she was disappointed in him. The girl then wondered what would have happened if she had answered that she was disappointed in him, and what he would have said to her. Maybe the guy would just smirk, after which the young lady wonders what Axion is afraid of. The girl also recalls how one day the maids were looking for her but could not find her anywhere. At this time, the main character was sitting in the bushes and thinking what was wrong with her, because everyone was so friendly and nice to her. And it's also much better there than in Renati's house, and apparently she doesn't deserve human treatment. She was sent there so that their family could strengthen ties with the Rakith family, so she can't do that. The girl also understands that she can't breathe, and her heart is aching, but at that very moment someone turns to the young lady, and he asks if she was really there. It turns out to be a guy with blonde hair, and the main character wonders if it could be Axion. At this time, the young man claims that he was looking for her, and the girl asks why, and he hates her too. After the day, the young lady saved the Archduchess. She had never spoken to Axion and was used to indifference, so it didn't bother her. The world was full of people who hated her, and few liked her. But then the guy sat down next to her. He claimed he hated her and couldn't bear to feel that way. He then extended his hand to the lady and invited her to go. This was the first time the young lady felt someone's touch, and because of this she did not notice, despair filling his eyes. A couple of days later, the maids were already rushing around the estate. One of them said that the mistress should rest, but the other one insisted that everything was fine and the maid could go. Ella was a servant at the Rakith estate. The woman at the time insisted that this event took place every summer, so it was time to get used to it, and nothing can be done about it. The blonde then asked if Anita had fallen asleep yet, to which Ella replied that yes, she had shown her to her room. She also told the landlady that she was changing her clothes while she was there. She discovered bruises and pinching marks on her body, and she thinks they are very old. The woman then asked if the maid had discovered the wounds, and she replied that she had, and then asked what she should do and whether she should treat them with holy water to prevent scars. The blonde told her to do so and also to go to the sanctuary in the morning. Ella also claimed that she, even without knowing about it, insisted on her own and was interested in who did this to her. And a week ago, the Renati family took from the imperial vault a relic that defined family affiliation and blood ties. The woman understood that it could even be a fake Orion lamp, but they hadn't verified its authenticity. And there's a high probability that these wounds appeared because of the girl who came to Renati's house and called herself Arabella. If she had anything to do with Anita's bruises, she would need to tell her family about it. At that moment, one of the servants turned to the mistress and insisted that she urgently needed to come to the office, to which she agreed. But as she was walking down the hallway, she noticed Anita and asked what had happened. The girl claimed the doctor had run that way and she had followed him, after which she apologized if she'd disturbed him. The woman said that, of course not, and that she was apparently worried about Axion. Well, nothing serious is happening to him, so she doesn't have to worry, because sometimes he experiences such ailments. Well, the girl must keep this a secret, because the Archduke's heir has many enemies, so it would be better if they didn't know about his weaknesses. The girl then replied that she wouldn't tell anyone, after which the blonde asked if she had any wounds on her body. Anita replied that they were only minor. That's why she didn't tell anyone about them. The woman thought her parents likely didn't know about these wounds, and she'd probably been hiding them even from her closest friends for a long time. After which she turned to the little girl again and said that if something hurt her, then she should share it and come more often, and she could even live there as long as necessary. The young lady thanked the woman for the offer, but insisted that she thought it was wrong. Landowners start working at the age of 10, and she was just that age. Therefore, she wants to learn from her father and help him with his affairs, and she also has to cope with such matters. The woman was then surprised and asked if her father had really told her this, to which the young lady replied yes, and the blonde said that's how it was, but still asked if she could stay with Axion if it wasn't hard for her, because she needed to go somewhere. Anita replied that of course she could. The woman then patted her on the head, and with a smile on her face, she said how sweet the girl was. After that, the young lady headed toward the boy's room. She approached him, but when she touched his hand, she realized that his hand was now cold. She covered the young man with a blanket and remembered his mother's words about her being sweet. The girl thought how strange it was that she felt peace not at her own home, but in the Archduke's house. She also saw how the young man was tormented by nightmares, and thought that it would be better if she saw these nightmares. After all, she was accustomed to the horrors of the night and could have dealt with Axion's suffering for him. A little while later, the young man woke up and saw a young lady next to him, holding his hand, after which he laid her down on the bed and covered her with a blanket. He also wondered if the girl was having a nightmare, after which he claimed that he would take them away so that she would see only good dreams. He used his power, after which the young lady's expression changed to calm. Axion took Anita by the hand and asked if she remembered the day they met for the first time, and he often thinks about it. I'm also very glad that she returned from that lake. The first ruler founded 2 archduchies in this empire. They were granted divine power by a mystical being, and the emperor's brother became the owner of one of the estates, and his descendants received the title of count. The second territory belongs to the Rakade family. Its history began with the second son of the first monarch, but the reality was far from what the myths depict. A mystical being who was on good terms with the imperial family actually placed a terrible curse on her. Lake Alkente became a terrible place from which no one could escape alive. The emperor, in order to prevent people from falling into eternal sleep and to protect his reputation, ordered that this place be guarded, and yet there were people who could not be saved from certain death. However, there he met Anita, and the girl could not even imagine how incredible her return was. From this cursed lake, the truth about which only the imperial family knew. Without divine power, it would be impossible to escape this lake, and Anita's survival was tantamount to a miracle. He also suspects that a mystical being may have helped the girl. But no matter how it happened, she brought his mother back to life, and the guy wanted to treat her only as a savior. However, for some time now, he couldn't take his eyes off her, and by that time, nothing remained of the divine power, except for the ability to heal. And he was the only one who was born with such a gift, and the emperor was waiting for the moment when he would show weakness, and the sanctuary was watching him all this time. He also felt uncomfortable with the servants in their estate, even though they were very kind. But he was some kind of mixture that could not be classified into a specific group, and Anita reminded him very much of her. She looks lonely, and when he looks at her, his insides clench. The guy also thought that if she had divine powers, they would understand each other better. And that day, when the girl was hiding in the bushes, he decided that he had lost her forever. But when he saw the girl sitting in the bushes, he understood everything. He didn't care whether she had the ability or not. The guy also claimed that, at first, he wanted her to be like him. But now, he is even glad that she does not have this power, because she won't have to go through what he went through, and the guy also remembers how the girl said that he hates her, and now he claims that he cannot hate her, and would never do anything that could upset her. And there's also something he still hasn't figured out from her: why she eats so little. And why does none of these servants accompany her to her fiancé's house, and is she happy? Now the maid is smearing cream on the young lady's face, and says that her cheek is very swollen, and the gentleman ordered her not to go anywhere for several days. The medicine arrived very quickly, and apparently he still feels guilty. But the main character only thinks that he is most likely simply afraid that someone will see her with such a bruise. The maid claims that the mistress's wound will heal very quickly, after which she also claims that water from the sanctuary arrived today. Meanwhile, the main character simply takes a coin from the chest of drawers and hands it to the maid. She then asks why she's giving it to her. And the young lady thinks if this is not enough, and then puts some coins in her hand. And he says that Hari is a good boy, after which she thanks her, and says that the lady will prepare breakfast, and will also come soon and call the miss, to which the girl agrees. While when she is alone, she thinks about what this feeling is like, as if she had a dream that she does not remember. And for some reason my soul felt so sad. The blonde was also looking out the window at this time, after which he touches the flower on the windowsill, and remembers how Anita said that she had a secret. She claimed that she couldn't even share it with him, so he might also have a secret that he wouldn't tell her. After which the guy said that they would have one secret each, and they would share everything else, and the lady said that was good, and she also agreed. At this time, the guy realizes that only he knows one of Anita's secrets, and although the girl does not have divine powers, she can talk to the spirit. And then he wonders if Arabella has the same ability. At that moment, someone knocks on the door, and the guy tells them to come in. Then a servant enters the room and addresses Mr. Axion. He asks if the servant has learned everything he asked for, to which the guy replies, yes, and will begin with a report on Arabella Renati. The doctor said she has a high sensitivity to their divine power, after which the young man understands that then she will not be useful to the imperial family, and if the conversation turns to her marriage to the prince, then there is no reason to interfere with it. The blonde also inquires as to who is conducting the sacred rite this year. The servant replies that it is Count Rome's second daughter, but he thinks that the Renati family will not sit idly by, and the Marchioness wants to confirm Arabella's position at this event. Therefore, she will try to make the best possible impression. Meanwhile, the Archduke is thinking about the ceremony, and he understands that the empire, founded thanks to the power of a mystical being, holds a sacred ceremony every 3 years. All the aristocrats take turns conducting it, and the members of the imperial family pursue only one goal. They need to know if there's someone among them with divine power, so they can be prepared in advance for it to be bestowed upon someone else. Bearers of this power can also be found among the aristocracy. The servant at this time says that yes, this time the ceremony is very important for Renati. The commander of the knights then says that they refused so many times, explaining that until the first daughter led her squad, the second must wait. Well, since Miss Arabella is back, they'll want to take part. The blonde man wonders what the chances are of Arabella losing consciousness. The guy claims that if no one gets hurt, and the healing power doesn't have to be used, then the probability is very low, but if that happens, people might find out about its special features. The Knight Commander also says that in that case, it will be considered an ability to determine divine power, and the imperial family will enter into a contract marriage, and the Renati family will be at a loss for words, thinking that the same fate awaits them. At this time, the guy remembers how the lady with blonde hair said that she wants her sister to be happy. He also understands that Anita is not the kind of person who will open up to every second person, and judging by the fact that she does not call Arabella's sister, they are far from close. But despite this, Arabella wished her happiness, and the boy wondered if she valued her sister. Meanwhile, the servant turned to the master and asked what he was thinking about. But the guy only turns to him and then claims that he will also participate in the upcoming ritual. At this time, the girl is lying on the bed and understands that, even having isolated her from the whole world, her father manages to give her work. The main character also wonders if he still hasn't checked that document, or if he didn't know that it would get mixed up with other papers. A document on tax evasion, and now the young lady only sighs. And also thinks that she suspected something strange exactly a year ago, and the amount allocated to the sanctuary annually. Since then, it has not matched, and each time a large part of the funds has been missing. With these thoughts, she went to meet the Marquis, but he only hit her and also screamed at the girl to stop meddling in something that wasn't her business. The young lady understood that this was a mistake, and that double-entry bookkeeping was being used, with the Marquis personally managing the accounts. For a while, the girl didn't even see them. Well, of course, now it's back to her duties. The fact that the man donates such a large sum of money to the sanctuary is connected with Ariadne's lamp, a relic that helps find any person the first time. They used it and found Arabella. Now the young lady realizes she has 4 months left before the tax audit, and then the Marquis' tricks will definitely be revealed, and the Imperial Palace will not leave it alone. But the girl throws down the paper and realizes that she is not going to deal with this herself. In any case, compensation for damages incurred due to tax evasion cannot be obtained locally. Only private property can be seized. After which the main character thinks that this is great, because if this happens, then the inhabitants of this land will not suffer for at least the next 10 years. However, due to their financial situation, they will have to give up the servants, but the girl understands that this will not worry her. A couple of days later, the parents turn to their beloved daughter and say that she is very beautiful, and that this dress was made just for her. Arabella, with a smile on her face, says that it is all thanks to the fact that she is helped by a man who asks if Arabella forgot to say anything. He also claims that this meeting with the Empress and the girl must be very careful about her behavior and manners, to which the young lady agrees. Then she heads down the hallway and sees her sister. She asks if Anita is ready, and he says she looks very beautiful. The main character merely nods, but thinks it's obvious they tried so hard to make her stand out from Arabella in the Empress's eyes. Her mother at this time says that Anita needs to correct her complexion a little, but Arabella says that she thinks this is enough. After all, Anita has very clear and white skin. The woman then insists that this is a meeting with the Empress herself, so she needs to look her best. At this point, the maid approaches the miss and offers her assistance, but the girl replies that she won't do it. And she is also completely ready, so we can set off on our journey, after which she turns to Arabella and offers to go. But her mother suddenly yells at the girl to wait. Arabella turns to her mother in surprise, and at this time the Marquis also approaches her, and the main character thinks how excited they both are. The girl also asks her father if it was worth it to do this. The man then turns to Anita and insists that they need to talk, so she should follow him. Anita replies that she doesn't know what her father wants to discuss, but she has nothing to talk about with him. After which she asks if he really wants to talk about her cheek. Morse then screams, and Arabella gets scared and asks why her father is yelling at her sister like that. Meanwhile, the Marquise tells Arabella that it's none of her business. She also says the girl is frightened, so let Anita talk to her father alone. But the girl replies that she will repeat once again that she has nothing to talk about with him. One of the maids at this time says that Miss Anita is at it again, the other one is wondering what this terrible atmosphere is, and maybe she wants to scare Miss Arabella. Another maid claims that she's probably being capricious because her dress isn't pretty enough. Arabella then turns to one of them and says that it was her father who started getting angry and that Anita wasn't to blame. But the maid says that the mistress is so kind, and it would be very nice if Miss Anita were even a little more like her. The lady with blonde hair thinks how strange it is because her sister is a very good person, but the girl also thinks why, when she talks about her kindness, everyone claims that she is bad. And even her sweet parents and polite servants, all the people living in the Renati estate. The girl also thinks that if her sister was really evil, she would never have run to look for a doctor on the day she lost consciousness. And the butler told her that at the age of 9, Anita was saved by the Archduchess who fell into the lake. This man constantly helps others, and the girl wonders why people only see the bad in her. At this time, the girl's mother turns to her and tells her to go to the carriage and wait there because they need to talk to Anita. But after this, the girl takes her sister by the hand and claims that she doesn't want to. The woman is surprised and asks what happened. The blonde lady asks what they want to talk to her sister about, and she asks to let her listen. The main character is a little surprised at this point, and the Marquis says that Arabella's legs are probably tired, so she should go and rest in the carriage. At this time, the main character is thinking why her sister is behaving this way and whether she is really protecting her. But then the girl becomes depressed and thinks about what she is even thinking about, because Arabella is, after all, the daughter of these two. The Marquise at this time claims that they did not mean anything bad, and her husband says that he was simply worried that Arabella would be very tired on the way there, since she was still very weak. So the girl lets Anita go and wait outside, but the young lady says no, and they must not be late for the meeting, so they will set off right now. After which, the young lady takes her sister by the hand and invites her to go on their journey. Anita is a little surprised and thinks it's strange. As they approach the carriage, the Marquise turns to his beloved daughter, and she says that when she greets the Empress, she must do this and that. At this time, the main character is near the knight and understands that he has such a face. It's as if even standing next to him is disgusting, but he wasn't in the security squad before. Hey, the girl thinks, where does she know him from? After which she remembers that this guy brought Arabella to his family home. The young man then asks why the girl doesn't come out, and she understands that he was not an escort before and wonders if he was suddenly promoted. The escort asks if the lady is going to leave, and the girl understands that this is very stressful. Then he hits the guy on the arm and steps on his foot with his heel. The young man only yelps, after which he says that if the lady cannot get down normally, she could take him by the hand. Well, the girl just asks if he knows what chivalry is, after which he asks why she needs it. The brunette says that apparently not, and she didn't think that the Marquis family had a knight who didn't know the basics. The guy then says that this concerns the lady, after which he asks if this is not so. Well, the main character asks what she has to do with it, after which he claims that the lady is harassing Miss Arabella. The Marquise immediately cries out, how dare he say such a thing? Then she turns to Anita and says it really wasn't her. The main character understands that, judging by her reaction, she is not mistaken, and the girl does not know why, but her mother deliberately spread rumors about her. And now she pretends that she has nothing to do with it, so she needs to find out the reason. After which the girl tells her mother that yes, and she believes her. But still, it's not entirely pure. How could a knight who sees her for the first time behave like that? And probably those maids spread rumors, after which the woman says that yes, it was them. The girl says that it's good that she fired them, to which the Marquise only nods. And the main character asks if it is possible that the knight, instead of training, was eavesdropping on other people's conversations in the estate. Anita is not surprised by the hatred directed at her, but why put it on display? The girl realizes that she has never felt anything like this before and turns to her mother. And she says that she no longer wants to see this knight and wonders whether her father will exclude him from the squad if he hears this. The woman replies that, of course, he will definitely do so, and she also wonders whether she should send this knight into exile. Anita replies that it is not worth it, after which she suggests going to a meeting with the Empress. A little while later, they are already approaching the door, and someone informs His Majesty that the Marchioness Renati and her daughters have arrived. The woman says, let them come in, and the girls do so. When they approach the Empress, the main character bows. She also says she is pleased to welcome Her Majesty. The girl's sister also says she is pleased to welcome Her Majesty, and she claims her name is Arabella Renati. The brunette understands that her sister is probably very worried, after which the Empress tells them to look at her, and both ladies raise their gaze to the woman. The main character realizes that the Empress always had a cold expression on her face, and despite the fact that she became the main character of the tragedy and lost her entire family, well, she did not lose her composure. Her composure was often laughed at, and people said that she was afraid of wrinkles, but the Empress did not react to this in any way. The young lady realizes that Arabella met the Empress for the first time today, and the woman at this time says that she finally saw her, after which she looks at Arabella, and then he tells the Marquise and her youngest daughter to step outside for a moment. The woman then turns to Her Majesty, a little surprised, and she says that Arabella is not at all. But the Empress overrules the woman and claims that she heard that the girl is already 19, and is she really at that age where her mother accompanies her everywhere? The woman then apologizes if this offends the Empress. Well, she just says that then she should think carefully about her words before speaking them, after which she asks why they are still there. She also turns to Arabella Renati, and she says she told everyone except her to leave this place. After which the main character and her mother go into another room. When the woman picks up the mug, her hands shake. Anita gets up from her seat and gets ready to go somewhere, but the woman wonders where she is going at such a crucial moment, and Her Majesty might start looking for her. The brunette replies that she is busy with her sister, and asks if her mother thinks that the Empress will be interested in her. The woman then says that, who knows, and let the girl stay there so that everyone can be at peace. Well, the young lady replies that she doesn't want to, after which the woman screams at her. But the girl only claims that if Her Majesty is looking for her, the maid will warn her about it. The woman then claims that the girl must still be present in order to enter immediately. Well, the young lady wonders if she has really come to offer her candidacy for the role of the prince's bride, and also to ask the Empress if she has any plans for her. The Marquise is then surprised and asks what the girl is talking about, but she asserts that if this is not so, then she doesn't understand her reaction. The young lady is certain that Her Majesty will not invite her, because the relationship between the Empress and the Rakid family is quite ambiguous. At this time, the woman cries out after the young lady that if the maid calls her, she must come there immediately. Well, the main character just glares menacingly at her mother as she leaves. A little while later, she's already in the garden, and she understands that she's not in the mood for a walk, but now it would do her good. The girl is also curious about what the Empress wanted to talk about with her sister, and it seemed that today she was waiting for her arrival, and the young lady thought that she would tell her about marriage, and did not expect that it would happen like this. And her mother had expected that Her Majesty would speak to her, and not to Arabella. After which the young lady moves on, but is suddenly surprised when she hears some rustling in the bushes. After which she sees a boy there and wonders if he's blind. The girl also doesn't understand why the child is there all alone. At this moment, the young man begins to fall off his feet, and Anita grabs him, after which the guy thanks her. But he still doesn't let go. After which, the young lady considers whether to tell him that she will hold him, and the guy can let her go. But the young man then takes his hand back and apologizes. The girl wonders why he doesn't leave and whether he really has anything to say. After which, the young man begins to run away, leaving the girl in bewilderment. At this time, one of the servants turns to the Archduke and claims that, according to the maid, the prince has left his chambers. The commander of the knights says that this is not the first time he has been late for an appointed meeting, and this is a sign of disrespect. And another servant says that, moreover, the eldest daughter of the Marquis Renati came to greet the Empress. The blonde claims he'd forgotten about it. He also realizes that Ariadne's lamp, which can be used to discover blood ties, exists and has been in the wrong hands for a long time. The person who helped the Renati family find this relic was the Empress. The Archduke says that after the Marquis's first daughter showed up, they remained silent for a whole month, and this is considered insulting. The servant then says that, given the Marquis's character, Miss Anita probably came with them. After which the Archduke smiles and says he thinks everything is true. The commander of the knights, meanwhile, says the prince is being impolite. Another servant says he's been gone for a while and maybe the Empress called him. The knight commander says he thinks the boy met Miss Anita on the way. The blonde is silent for a moment after this and then turns around. The knight commanders ask where the gentleman is going, but he insists he'll only be gone for a short while. A little while later, he approaches Anita and greets her. The girl then asks what Axion is doing in the palace, to which he replies that he needs to find the prince, after which he asks what about her. The young lady claims that she has arrived for an audience with the Empress, together with her sister, and that she may be invited at any moment. The blonde then asks if she has seen the prince by chance, to which the young lady replies that she has not, after which she asks if the guy was looking for a prince, and claims that she can help. But the young man with blonde hair, with a smile on his face, says that it is not necessary, after which he looks at the face of the young lady, and he sees a bruise on him. Then he approaches the girl and asks who did it. A little while ago, when the guy was looking around and looking for Anita in the palace. Then he finally saw her and understood that when he met her, his soul immediately felt lighter. He was afraid that he would see a prince next to her and thinks that, up until that moment, they perceived their relationship as friendly. It was a little strange, but it seemed he'd always liked the girl. The main character then asks what kind of question that was, and the guy is just wondering which of the maids will look for her if the Empress wants it. Anita replies that she doesn't know, after which the blonde man claims that he will take her there. The brunette says something close and asks him not to worry, but the guy says that he still insists. The young man also understands that these injuries were caused by her parents, and he will endure them until the girl finally leaves this family. A little while later, the main character returns to the living room where her mother is sitting, and he realizes that the Empress isn't even calling the Marquise to her. At that very moment, the door to the room opens. The young lady's sister enters and addresses her, but the woman interrupts her daughter, and he screams at her, after which he jumps up from his place and hugs the girl, asking if she is okay. She also asks if the Empress called her, to which the blonde replies that no, and she told them to return to their place. The woman then says that it is good, and that they really should go home, after which they head down the corridor. But suddenly the Marquise tells them to wait a minute because she wants to go back and say a few words to the Empress. The maid says that in order to start the meeting again, she needs to sign up, but the Marquise claims that they are already there, and the main character understands that apparently her pride does not allow her to justify herself to the maid. The Marquise understands that she can't just leave it like that and walk away, but the girl still wonders why she waited a whole month. The Empress did give her the opportunity to use Ariadne's lamp. The young lady also recalls her father's words that sometimes engagement creates useful connections, and she wonders if the people from the Archduchy really helped them. Considering that they did help find Arabella, they still want to break off her engagement, and the girl wonders where their hypocrisy ends. Meanwhile, the Marquise cries out that she wants to see the Empress right now. The maid then tries to revive, but at that moment the young lady turns to her mother, and he claims that the maid says it's not allowed. The woman then cries out that Arabella is Renaudy's daughter, and he asks why she calls a common servant mistress, after which the woman moves on and tells Arabella to follow her. The girl then runs after her mother, and a little while later they find themselves in a carriage. The lady with the blonde hair says that if they returned, the Empress might be angry, to which the woman replies that she is right, and the main character at this time turns to her sister. The girl then asks what's going on, and they start talking about something. A little while later, the main character enters her room, and he looks at something, after which he hears someone knocking on the door. But when the young lady opens it, then he's surprised. After all, he sees his sister standing in front of him. The blonde lady then asks if she can sleep with Anita tonight. The brunette is surprised by this, and the girl asks if she wants to spend the night together tonight, to which the young lady replies that it's okay, after which he tells the girl to sit for now. Then the main character goes to her sister and takes her face, and also smears the wound with ointment. The lady with the blonde hair asks if Anita knew, to which she replies that she did. He asks if the Empress hit Arabella. The girl then says she's a good person, but apparently her words came across as too harsh. The brunette asks what the girl told her and replies that this time she wasn't just chatting, and what's more, it's only one finger, so Anita is more precious to her. Arabella recalls how she sat with the Empress, and she said that the engagement to her sister must take place. The woman then looked coldly at the girl, and then she hit her and asked if she really wanted this, even if she ordered her finger to be cut off. Now the main character understands what happened and thinks that even though she is the Empress, but she can't do this to the Marquis' daughter. Only after these words could Arabella sleep peacefully. And she herself is a coward, and yet the Empress speaks such words. And the main character realizes that her sister is surprising her. A short time later, the Archduke sits with the Empire's only prince, a man named Dadoba. The prince then asks if the Archduke simply left yesterday. The boy replies that the prince's council was not there. Well, he says that the Archduke should have waited for him after all. Then he also says that it turns out his fiancée came to see his mother yesterday. He also looks at the Archduke's reaction and understands that he thought that he would, as always, sit with an impassive face. But his reaction was a bit unexpected. But he was like that at the academy too. It was hard for Axion to be around not only the aristocrats but also him. But instead of refusing, he reluctantly accepted the invitation, and the prince thought that he was concerned about his future. But it turned out it was all for Anita Renaudy's sake. Now the prince claims he didn't think the young man was trying to share his friendship with Anita Renati. The Archduke just remains silent and drinks his tea, after which he asks, what if she starts communicating with others better than with him? The blonde replies that this will not happen, but the prince asks where he gets such confidence and whether he intends to intervene. The blonde then wonders why he should do something like that. He'll just stand out from them. Well, His Highness asks if that's true. The Archduke at this time hands him a precious stone, and the prince asserts that he has always been grateful to him. And also in the last few days he can at least see the light on a bright sunny day. He also inquires about the Archduchess's well-being. Meanwhile, the young man realizes that the empire has no longer produced children possessing absolute divine power. But one day, such a child was born into the Archduke's family, and eventually the emperor's mind became clouded. He also succeeded in carrying out his plan to destroy the Archduke. Axion began to hate his gift. The blonde claims that the empress still regrets that she deceived her husband and caused the Archduchess to fall into the lake, after which the Archduke claims that he will give it to her. And the prince smiles and says that it's all thanks to the fact that he was entrusted with this matter and the future emperor will not forget his deed. At this time, the main character is walking through the forest and also understands that she came to him to talk, but she wonders if he will be happy. At this time, someone turns to the young lady, and she realizes that it is as she thought. Meanwhile, Ball of Light claims they haven't seen each other for a month, and he thought the girl had forgotten about him, after which he also wonders why she hasn't come. They could have seen each other at least once every 10 days. The girl replies that she was busy, and the Ball of Light then asks what she's thinking about. The young lady then asks if it's possible to influence sensitivity to divine power, to which the little Ball of Light asserts that it will be difficult, and that it is better for these people not to go to the sanctuary, although they simply heal there, so it probably makes no difference. After which he also inquires about the lady's purpose and asks if such a man really appeared next to her. The girl then asks how he understood, to which the little Ball of Light replies that they've been talking for so many years now, and that he is, after all, a spirit. The girl then remarks that he's saying something strange. The spirit says that someone hasn't visited him for a whole month, and he's even forgotten how to speak. The young lady then asks if he really invited her and apologizes, after which the spirit asks if she will appear more often now. The girl replies that she can't promise, and that it would be better if he didn't wait for her. The little Ball of Light then says how cruel Anita is, but he knows what a warm and kind soul she has. After which the spirit says that in general it was nice to see her, and one day he will definitely tell her his name. A short time later, the protagonist returns to other people. She also realizes that rumors will spread that she was walking alone by the lake. At this time, someone approaches her and claims that they haven't seen each other for a long time. It turns out to be a lady with red hair, and the main character wonders if this is Count Soviet's daughter. There were rumors that the Count loved his second wife and stepdaughter more than his own children. Rachel held a fairly high position in society, but in her presence she showed her true colors. And one day the main character asked her if the girl considered her her friend. The brunette also understood that a friend is someone you communicate with without pretense. But the lady with red hair then asked what the girl had said, and cried out that her mother would never be there. She also shouted that the lady had better throw away these unnecessary thoughts, after which the main character said okay. Even after this, she could not understand why the girl constantly showed her dissatisfaction. Now the girl sighs, and the lady with red hair asks if her family is no longer providing for her. After all, she's dressed so simply. The main character heard these words and simply turned around and was about to leave. But the lady with red hair grabs her hand and tells the girl to wait, after which she asks if this is true. She also asks what to do, because she urgently needs to talk to her friend. One of the girls then wonders who this friend is, but when she sees the main character, she is surprised and then tells Lady Soviet to go. The girl takes the main character by the arm and suggests that they walk like this, because she doesn't want to give the appearance that they are not close. She didn't like these girls at all, and they were also boring. When they were already far away from the others, the red-haired lady thanked the main character. He also claims that he'll buy her clothes as a token of gratitude. The girl replies that she has a meeting, so it won't be possible. and the lady with red hair asks where the escorts and the carriage are. Anita claims that she doesn't want to answer this question, but the red-haired ladies claim that it is unlikely that they will meet her, so she will give her promise now. She then claims that the Marchioness of Oakland learned of the existence of Renati's first daughter. Anita claims that this is no secret to anyone, and it is not surprising that now she is also aware. And the Marchioness is, after all, the sister of the head of the Renati family. The lady with red hair claims that a ball in honor of a sacred rite will soon take place and asks if they will be able to see each other there. The main character wonders if this girl is hinting at something more and warning about something. A little while later, the girl is already in her estate and turns to the butler, asking what happened. He replies that the lady was interested in her whereabouts and asks where the lady was. The girl replies that she was at Lake Alkente, but when she climbs the stairs, she hears someone else's voice. It turns out to be her sister, and she claims that Anita is late and also asks where she has been. The main character asks why she needs to know this, to which the lady with blonde hair says that she was simply worried about her sister. Anita thinks Arabella shouldn't ask about it, because she's been where she used to live. She met her adoptive parents and her wounded sister to give them some money. She knew the market wasn't going to help this family, and on the day Arabella was taken away, her sister called her by a different name. Because of this, the knight pushed her, and the girl broke her leg. Despite all this, the girl's mother asked how Miss Renati was doing, and the girl understands that her adoptive mother still loves her sister. She also thinks she never received love, and feels so sorry for the family who took Arabella in that she can't even tell them where she was. The girl just moves on and says that Arabella doesn't have to worry about her. The blonde lady then turns excitedly to her sister and claims that she didn't mean anything bad and just wanted to ask her something because she's so busy. The main character turns to her sister, a little surprised, and thinks about what she wanted to ask. And the lady with the blonde hair claims that soon there will be a sacred ritual and the dress will be difficult to find avatars. Anita says fine, and her sister is a little surprised. The brunette asks if she wasn't going to suggest going to the shopping district together, to which her sister, smiling, replies yes. The next day they are already heading somewhere in a carriage, and when the lady gets out, Axion meets her. He asks if it was difficult to get there, to which the young lady replies that it was not and understands that it is already the 7th year. 2 or 3 times a month there is no tea party in the Archduchy, and the guy then asks when the ladies will be taken to the gates of Rakid. The young lady only thinks that the Archduchess allowed this to be done only because in the future she will become part of this family, and this is an advantage that she received due to the fact that she is his fiancée. But then the girl decides to change the subject and says that Arabella is fine, but last time she lost consciousness there. The guy smiles and says he's happy. The brunette then says that, as far as he knows, the disease isn't contagious, so there's no need to worry. And also, he was probably very surprised, so she apologizes for warning them. At this time, the Archduke asks what is wrong with her, and inquires if she is okay. The girl only smiles after this and wonders if she really looks like there is something wrong with her. She also tells Axion that everything is fine since she's not sick. The guy is about to say something else, but at that moment someone speaks to him. It turns out to be a senior servant named Grace and Axion's assistant. Anita says he can go. After all, Grace probably came for her. But the blonde man simply tells her not to agree so easily, after which the main character is surprised. And since the Duke is interested, what should he do so that she can act as she sees fit? And he also asks if he could become her partner. The main character wonders why the Archduke is suddenly asking about this, and there are only 3 months left before she leaves the Renati family. After which the young lady says that Axion will be her companion at all celebrations. The guy only smiles after this, after which the main character leaves with the maid. As they walk down the hallway, Grace asks how the lady's meal was, to which she replies that it was good. The maid also confirms that her birthday is just around the corner and asks if the lady would like a special gift. But at that very moment, a worried maid runs up to them. Grace asks what happened and why the girl is screaming, but this asserts that she needs to report something. Grace then apologizes to Miss, and the main character asks what happened. The maid claims that the Duchess said that she would not be able to attend tea today, and she forgot to warn the lady. The main character wonders if she is talking about the Archduchess, and then wonders if this is really connected to her affairs. And in the end, Arabella will still take the place of the head of the family. But the young lady also remembers how the guy told her not to agree so easily. After which she realizes that this time she wants to check everything personally, and then the girl starts running somewhere. She also opens the door abruptly and then sees the Archduchess, who is in poor health. When the girl sits down next to her, he apologizes for being rude, but the woman tells her not to worry. However, at the same time, she began coughing heavily. Anita wondered when this had started and what kind of illness it was. But the blonde only claims that she sees a familiar look, and also says that doctors cannot determine it. Anita suggests asking the sanctuary or His Majesty for help, but then she immediately wonders what kind of stupid thing she said. After all, they are all waiting for the woman to fall into eternal sleep, and in the temple they will want to gain guardianship over Axion, because he possesses divine power, and the emperor considers the Archduchess his rival. Then the young lady thinks what to do now, but the woman insists that everything is fine. After all, the girl once saved her, and she could have plunged into eternal sleep even then, so she thinks that she has lived quite a long life. After this, Anita realizes that she actually received love, even though she thought that no one gave her warmth and care. The brunette claims that she will not sit back and watch the lady fall into eternal sleep. The woman only smiles after this and also says that Anita is still as kind as ever. She also hopes she won't tell Axion about this. The girl replies that she can't promise that. A little while later, she is already heading back and realizes that the Archduke started doing her job 3 years ago. It turns out that at this time, the disease began to progress, and perhaps the woman decided that she said all this in a fit of emotion. But Anita understands that she never throws words to the wind and knows what needs to be found first. The main character understands what the woman wants and asks to keep her illness a secret, but she cannot hide such a thing from Axion. All the information was in the secret first-class library of the Archduchy, and Axion must have been there often. But the girl also thinks about how to find a way to cure the Archduchess if she herself could not cope with it. But the girl remembers the kind smile of this woman, after which she understands that nothing in this life has come easy to her. So she resigned herself to it. A couple of days later, the Marquise approached her husband. She also claims that she's convinced that the Archduchy wants to distance itself from them. The Marquis claims that he thinks he is just getting worked up about it and that they have no reason to do so. He also understands that when the Archduchess handed over power to her son, there were similar concerns, but thanks to this they were able to obtain a valuable relic. The woman says that this time everything is different, and there is a strange atmosphere in the air. After which the man insists that she did say that only some baron's wife bothered her. The Marquise claims that usually they all fawn and take revenge on her. It's all because the audience with the Empress went down the drain. One woman later said how lucky the Marchioness was to have such a lovely daughter as Anita. And is she really so smart that she helped her father with his business since childhood, so she is sure that if the girl went to the academy, she would become a great person. The Marquis at this time claims that his wife has become too impressionable because of the approaching celebration. At this moment, someone enters the room and announces that Miss Anita has returned. Morris turns to his wife and asks if she wants to speak with her. But the woman shakes her head and claims that if she sees her face, it will only spoil her mood. She also realizes that Anita is the child who took away everything that should have belonged to Arabella. Even her haughty gaze infuriates her. After which the woman tells the maid to tell Anita, so that she would watch her behavior, because lately she has been constantly walking somewhere, and it would be better if she stayed at home. The main character gets out of the carriage a little while later, and realizes that she has been thinking for several days about how to find something that would help cure the Archduchess. This is not an easy task, so she needed someone who could handle it. That is why she came there 3 years ago, when her attempts to enter the academy were unsuccessful. She was isolated from everyone, and in order to somehow protect herself, the girl created this trading point through another person. The place is small, but there's someone there she can trust. At that moment, someone runs out and addresses the hostess. It turns out to be a manager named Vanessa. She asks what happened, after which the main character suggests talking inside. When the two girls enter, the manager serves tea. The main character then wonders where her escorts are, as she hadn't seen anyone on her way there. The lady with red hair says that in order to close the deal, she had to spend a lot of money, so she fired them. The main character then asks if she is afraid that this place will go bankrupt because of her. But even if this happens, the blame will be on her, because she trusted an incompetent person and she is trying hard. Vanessa claims that she almost lost her life that day, but Lady Anita saved her and made her the manager of this place from a commoner. It's not then that he thinks it's not true, because the girl wasn't a commoner. It's the time when the search for Arabella was actively underway. The girl's so-called parents donated funds to the shelter for the sake of their reputation. It was on one of those days that the young lady met Vanessa. The girl was screaming for people to wait and listen to her, after which she screamed that the director was leaving all their money in his pocket. Anita understood that the documents were probably forged, and it was strange that the misappropriation of funds was not recorded. She also asked the girl how she knew, to which she replied that she used to work in the Information Guild. There were also various activities there. Even back then, the young lady was fearless, and the main character found her useful for the place. At this time, the manager is wondering why the lady came, since she rarely appears there. The brunette claims that she wants to make a request to Crochet, which surprises the manager. After which he tells the mistress that most of the guild has its own connections, and Crochet appeared 15 years ago, but no one really knows about it, and the girl asks how the mistress thinks this means. It's best not to get involved with a guild like that. But the main character replies that everything is fine and understands that she's familiar with the guild. A little while later, one of the servants knocks on the master's door and says that he is entering. It turns out to be Naid Roheim, who is Duke Viserys' assistant. The Duke then wonders what it is, and he thinks that he has something urgent that has come so suddenly. After which he picks up a bag and takes out a crystal container from it. But looking at her in shock, he asks, "Who dared do this?" The servant then insists that there was a note attached to the bag. When the man takes it in his hands and reads it, he sees that words of apology are written there. He also says that as soon as the servant finds out who it is, he should tell him, but the guy replies that there is no such need. After all, the man immediately removed his hat and showed his face. The Duke asks if this man was familiar to him and whether he is some kind of aristocrat, to which the servant replies, yes, and it was Anita Renati. The man then asks if this is the girl the emperor talks to at every banquet, and the servant claims that yes, and that is indeed the case. He also thought that she had connections with the emperor, but nothing else suspicious was noticed on her part. The Duke then asks if it really was Anita Renati and not someone else. The servant claims that her face cannot be confused with anyone else's, because her hair is black and the corners of her eyes are upturned. After which the man says that the girl gives it, because even then he realized that she was smart, but how could she have found something similar? The man recalls being on the shore of a lake. He couldn't even imagine that late at night he would meet a little girl on the shore of Lake Alkente. The Duke then asked if she was really only 7, to which she replied that she was. He thought the young lady didn't even remember him. The man also told her that if she needed anything urgent, he would help her, but she would have to use a special method so he could immediately understand and respond. At this time, the servant asks in surprise whether the master had met this girl before, to which he replies that it was a very long time ago. The assistant asks how many times they saw each other, and he thought that the girl only occasionally visited the sanctuary. The Duke claims that people without secrets do not attract him, and he also thinks so. He who will participate in the banquet in honor of the sacred rite does not want to be an adult who disappoints the younger ones. The servant then asks, a little surprised, what the master is talking about, and a little while later the day of the banquet arrives. The maid helps dress the main character but says it's too much. The young lady asks what she's talking about, after which the maid claims that the lady wears red, and that these clothes are too simple, and they ordered that the only accessory she should wear was this pearl necklace. The main character then asks if this is true, and the maid claims that this outfit is more suitable for a sanctuary and not for a festive evening. Anita understands that, and last year she was wearing a red dress with roses and gold thread embroidered along the hem, and now she is in these plain clothes, and the only accessory is a necklace. The girl also wonders if they really decided to let her participate, but in such a way that she wouldn't stand out. She also recalls her sister telling her it was very beautiful. Anita immediately handed the necklace to her sister and told her to wear it. But after this, the girl, surprised, told her sister to wait and claimed that there was a similar necklace with a different stone. She also suggested wearing these necklaces on the day of the celebration and asked if Anita agreed. Now, the young lady understands that because of the marquis, she cannot wear the jewelry that Arabella chose. And the maid informs the miss that it is time for her to go, after which the girl heads to the corridor. Arabella is delighted to see her little sister, but then notices that she is not wearing a necklace. The main character, looking at her sister, thinks that she was probably upset because of the necklace. But Arabella says everything is fine. The protagonist wonders what she means, and does she want to say that she doesn't care that she didn't wear jewelry, or that she's glad that she wasn't scolded? At this time, the marquise says that Anita took so long to get ready and made them wait. But the girl wonders if she really looks dressed up. Arabella, meanwhile, watches all this with agitation. After which the marquise approaches her and asks what is going on, to which the girl replies that she is probably overexcited. The woman then tells the girl not to worry and to follow Anita's example. The blonde lady asks if her mother thinks so, and then claims that she agrees with her. At this point, Anita just sighs and also understands that the woman will definitely say something now. After which the marquise exclaims that Arabella is actually 1,000 times better than Anita. But the girl only asks her mother to calm down, after which she turns to her sister and whispers to her for forgiveness. The young lady understands that the girl spoke quietly on purpose, so that she would know what she was thinking and feeling. A short time later, another carriage pulls up to their estate. The marquise looks at it in shock, after which he asks if it really is Mr. Axion. The main character is also a little surprised. The young man is well dressed and heading toward her. The marquise then says that he must have come to escort Anita, so she allows it. The main character is surprised and wonders if she really agreed so easily. Then she heads off. The girl also asks the Archduke what brought him there so suddenly, to which he replies that he wanted to please her. The guy pins a beautiful brooch to the young lady's hair and then claims that it is a gift for the occasion, in case she doesn't like his surprise. A short time later, the marquise is already heading out in a carriage. She also understands that the Archduke most likely has no intention of distancing himself from their family. Well, if she had known, she would have managed to make sure that Anita did not participate in the banquet at all. The lady with blonde hair at this time just silently watches all this. And the main character is in the carriage with the Archduke and staring at him. After this, the guy simply says that she embarrasses him, and then the girl turns to him. She also asks if he knew about his mother's illness. The guy then asks how she knew, after which he claims that she probably thinks he knows nothing. The young lady replies that she simply thinks he would have figured it out himself. She also asks if he found Ashut's tears, to which the guy replies that he hasn't found them yet and that he probably needs to look in antique stores. The young lady then thinks about this thing and realizes that it helps her live the same day over and over again. In other words, they prolong life, and this is currently the only artifact that can help. The blonde claims that this is why he placed his people throughout the empire, and the girl asks if this is true and also claims that she also wanted to look for him. The Archduke looks at her sadly after this, and the main character asks what is wrong. The guy claims that he knows that she is up to something, but let the girl promise him something so that she doesn't take risks and thinks about her own safety first. The main character is a little surprised by this, but then just nods. At that moment, someone runs up to the gentleman and screams at him. The servant claims that His Highness the Prince asked him to deliver this letter. The young man then tells the servant to tell him to read it. He also turns to Anita and offers to go, after which they head on further. As they walk down the corridor, the girl notices a statue of two snakes coiled around each other. She also wonders if this is the personification of wisdom or cunning, since these qualities are inherent in the emperor. The girl also recalls how the man said that he heard that Lady Renati was helping the Marquis family to be united. And of course this is true, because out of the children of the 5 families of the empire, she is the only girl. At this time, the blonde asks her if she likes this statue, after which the girl says that it is the personification of the imperial family. The young lady realizes that Axion taught her about good manners as a child, and it's a good thing she's teaching him such things now. A little while later, the two are already approaching the doors to the ballroom. The blonde then says that they are late, so there is no point in announcing their names. But when the servant is about to object, the guy claims that he does not want to spoil the atmosphere. When they enter the room, the main character asks if he asked that his name not be announced because all the aristocrats would come running to him. To which he replies that yes, he also wants only Anita by his side. At that moment, someone addresses the gentleman and claims that His Majesty the Emperor is calling him. But the guy just turns around and says that he can't right now, so he asks for forgiveness. After this, he asks if he can say something in his ear, after which he whispers something. The blonde then says he understands and will be right there. The young man also turns to the young lady and claims the emperor is apparently impatient. The girl replies that everything is fine and let him go because she will wait for him. After which the young man claims he's fast and then leaves. When the young lady is alone, she suddenly hears a noise. But when she turns around, she sees a man standing next to her sister and claiming that Renati's youngest daughter is probably upset. After which he asks what she is going to do, and the young lady apologizes. At this time, the main character approaches them, and the guy is a little surprised, and the girl asks what he wanted to say and let him continue. After this, the young man begins to get nervous, and the main character wonders if he really raised his hand to her because of the wine that splashed on his clothes. After which the guy screams, "Does Lady Renati imagine what that lady did?" The main character then asks if he told that lady, and then snatches a fan from someone's hands, and she slaps the guy across the cheek. The young man then cries out that the girl doesn't even know what a mistake her sister made towards him. Well, the main character asks if he is talking about a mistake, after which she tells him not to make her laugh. The guy then asks if she really knew everything perfectly well and did this to him. The young lady says that perhaps Arabella's hand slipped or he pushed her himself, and in general, she's now thinking about his rudeness towards her. The guy then asks what kind of rudeness she said, but the girl only asks how dare he look down on her, after which the guy bows, but he still tells him how much. The girl then interrupts the count's son and asks if he received money for this, after which she also says that he lost everything and it is unlikely that anyone is helping him. The young man claims that if it is because of the scars on his hand, then he injured himself while learning to play the instrument. But the girl says that he doesn't even understand that he is just a pawn on a chessboard, and if he wants to earn forgiveness, then he should kneel. After which the young man falls to his knees, but at that very moment someone cries out to Lady Renati. The girl understands that here he is, and this guy has been appointed as her sister's escort. He's a cousin, and also a marquis named Auklid. Anita wonders if he's been standing there watching all this time. After which the young lady says that it may be normal for him to watch what happens to a member of his family, but she cannot do that. At this time, the guy asks what she said, and the young lady's sister tells her that everything is fine. After which the marquis says that the lady does not even consider Arabella her sister. The main character understands that she knows perfectly well the methods he uses to take her sister away, so she can confidently tell him so. The girl takes her sister by the hand and claims that she must take care of her because Arabella is her sister. Everyone is surprised and doesn't even know what to say. A little while later, the main character is sitting at the table with her sister, and he wonders if the elder Mrs. Auklid was Arabella's saffron today. The girl then replies that yes, and she also claims that she is her sister, but still pathetic. She also knows that the girl said this on purpose in front of people. She also claims that she was kicked out a year ago so that she wouldn't look at a similar dress in the window. And she hasn't changed at all since that day, but everything around her has. Even though she's 19, she's still the same as she was as a child, and Anita probably never was like that. But the main character replies that she had the same experience. After all, people become integrated into society through events and tea parties at about the same age. But it doesn't often happen that a girl starts visiting such places so abruptly. Her parents greatly overestimated her abilities. The blonde lady insists she couldn't say anything and stood with her head bowed, but her sister insists the man who tried to hurt her with words is pathetic. Arabella says she couldn't do anything and was introduced to girls her own age, and she couldn't even greet them properly. The main character asks if her daughter was introduced to Marquis d'Isolante, Count Sauvier, and Count Hividen. Arabella. How did her sister even recognize her? To which she replies that they are not the only ones trying to crush her like this, and if everything ended easily, then she is lucky. So let the girl not think badly of herself. After all, she is Renati herself. The main character realizes that she knew the girl would encroach on their family. Even with the title of Marquis, she remains far lower in the hierarchy than Renati. But she lived under that name longer, and perhaps she decided to use Arabella, who doesn't understand anything. The main character then asks if the girl knew he was paid for it. Her sister, surprised, asks who. The young lady understands that saving Arabella in front of everyone, when she'll attract everyone's attention, is the plan. The poor girl will be so grateful that she'll do whatever she wants. The Marchioness of Oakland learned about Renati's first daughter, after which the main character claims that she is her father's older sister, and she orchestrated all this. Her sister then tells her to be careful, and after all, Mr. Oakland provoked her today. The main character wonders if the girl believes everything she tells her, and whether it's because she's her younger sister. The young lady says that this is partly true, but she would believe her sister in any case. She was also upset when she found out that her previous family was living happily without her, and she was told that they would feel burdened if she visited them, so these words were simply conveyed to her. The main character understands that the girl was told this on purpose so that she would not return there. And the lady with the blonde hair claims that strange thoughts come to her mind now, and if they had grown up together, then perhaps she would have been like Anita. After which she asks if sister ever imagined something like this. After these words, the main character only remains silent and understands that she has never met people like her sister. And sometimes she thinks Arabella is completely stupid. Then she finally says it's time to go in, because a lot of time has passed. When two girls enter the hall, someone addresses them, and the main character understands that it was Mrs. Oakland. The woman then turns to Arabella and claims she heard what happened in the hall, and the girl was probably quite surprised. The young lady replies that everything is fine and Anita helped her. The woman then asks if she really did this. He also claims that she should have been warned that Anita was there too. The protagonist understands that even the Marquis and his wife were worried that Mrs. Oakland would ask about her. And now, when everything did not go according to her plan, the woman most likely demonstrates that she is unhappy with the situation. After which the main character claims that her presence does not matter and asks why Lady Oakland needs to know about this. Or is it so important to her that she should reproach Arabella for it? The woman replies that, of course, they will marry, and the young lady says, that's all there is to it. Well, then the aunt says that apparently the girl is still young and does not understand everything, and she also sees that the girl wanted to stand out. But this decoration does not suit her. The young lady replies that the Archduke gave it to her and asks if her aunt doesn't like it. The woman replies that she knows what she did there earlier, and even if she was angry, the situation could have been resolved in a more reasonable way as a well-mannered person. After all, she is the daughter of a marquis, and she still cannot control her emotions, and therefore her family is having a hard time. The main character then mentally apologizes to her sister and realizes that she doesn't want to be like her. After all, if she were even half like that, she would have already been subjugated with the help of such threats. The girl then comes closer to her aunt and asserts that she will not ask where she took Arabella, being her saffron, but she will still send a letter to her mother, who trusted her and asked her for this favor. And I wish she would apologize to her sister right now. This only makes the woman angry, but he still apologizes to Arabella. The blonde lady then says yes and smiles. The main character then says that 2 years ago, when there was a drought in the Renati territory, the aunt considered herself Oakland. And now she's suddenly taken Renati's side, and it seems she's suddenly decided to become their aunt, so perhaps she'll do as she sees fit. The girls who threatened Arabella will face an aristocratic trial, and the mastermind behind all this won't be able to escape. The woman then turns to the lady and says that she should not engage in such things. After which, the girl replies that yes, and thanks her for this long and pleasant conversation. She then turns around and states that it is time to fulfill the saffron duties that the woman has neglected. When the main character moves on, she realizes that in the end the Duke did not answer her, and she guessed. At that moment, she hears someone talking about the Duke and asks if this is the first time in 18 years. At the same moment, someone reports that his lordship, Roderick Viseros, has arrived. One of the aristocrats asks why he decided to participate in today's banquet, and whether he hasn't stopped attending such events since the disappearance of the Duchess. The main character at this time looks at him and smiles, but the man just turns around. And the girl understands that it seems he recognized her, but still does not understand why he turned away. The Duke's assistant yawns at this point and realizes that he thought he would once in a lifetime be lucky enough to enjoy the delicacies of the imperial cuisine, but the Duke left him outside and came in himself. And he was still just as cold and soulless. But at that very moment, he notices someone coming out and sees that it is the Duke, who is feeling ill. The guy immediately runs up to his owner and asks if something happened at the banquet, but the man only says for Nede to find out everything about Anita Renati. She'd even prefer that he call the Shadow as soon as they arrive at the estate. The guy then claims that he has already found out everything that is necessary and has not discovered anything special. But the gentleman must be careful, because the other side hesitated, because they think that he is only busy looking for someone other than the lady. The man then asks if there's any point in being cautious, since that's why he created the guild. The guy then replies that, yes, the lady is a different age too. She's 17. The month of birth is November, and the age difference is 1 year, after which the man says that it's good. And he shouldn't have behaved like that. A blonde lady in the hall at this point claims she thought the Duke had ended his isolation, but apparently not. Another aristocrat then asks if it could be that he is not yet accustomed to society. And the main character understands that the Duke definitely recognized her, and maybe he suddenly changed his mind about contacting her, but she will have to use a special method so that she can immediately understand everything and react. So the girl came up with an excellent plan. And the main thing is that the Duke refused her request. She has to find out everything through Vanessa, after which the young lady goes out onto the balcony. At this time, the Duke is heading down the corridor and remembers how the prince said that if he does not want to lose what he needs so much, then he should hurry, because it belongs to the emperor. At that moment, the emperor enters the hall and claims he is late due to urgent matters. He also asks how long everyone has been waiting for him. The man sits down on his throne. He also claims that he is well aware that the Ricade Knights are trying their best in the north, but unfortunately their warriors are not distinguished by any particular talent. So he asks how about Togo personally going north, since this is not the first time. The blonde thinks that this is not surprising, since the sacred rite is held on time every time, and the emperor tries in every way to distance him from the capital, after which he tells him to think better about the competence of the imperial warriors. And also, if he has nothing more to say, then he will go, after which the young man is going to leave. And when he closes the door, the emperor immediately throws a glass of water in there and screams what a rude guy this guy is. And how dare he say such a thing? This Duke understands that the emperor thinks he wants to remain in the capital to show him his disrespect. Well, if that's the case, then he can participate in the sacred rite. As the young man moves on, someone addresses him, and he asks if he is by any chance with the Archduke's son, and then offers to talk. The man claims that he thinks his people made a slight mistake when they handled the affairs of the Ricade family. The boy then remains silent and looks at the Marquis. He recalls how he cried out, wondering if the Ricade family had really withdrawn all their investment. He understands that even if this is a mistake, it is a very serious one, but the Archduke at this time asks if the man is talking about a mistake. The Marquis then claims that, as he thought, the guy doesn't suspect anything, and information was received that the Ricade family canceled the investment, so apparently his assistant made a mistake. Well, they were great companions, so he won't pressure the guy. Razvertok then asks if he's talking about companions, and the man claims that he invested in him because he believed in his plan. The Archduke claims that he was mistaken in thinking that he considered the Marquis' business successful. He also wonders if that is why he dared to do this to Anita, believing that he was allowed to do anything. The Marquis then cries out to Axion. But Axion says that if the man dares to push Anita away again and lose control of his mind, he'll be punished. It will make him regret it and miss the days when everything was calm. At this time, the main character is sitting on the balcony while then someone comes onto it. The girl realizes that it is not Axion, after which she asks if she allowed this man to enter. While the guy says that if she didn't want to be disturbed, she should have locked the door. The main character wonders if this is some kind of meanness from the Marquis again, and they probably want to spread rumors about her infidelity, so that Rakid's side will break off their engagement. And the girl wonders how parents can do this to their child. She also understands that this is a very good method, but it has its downsides. This is that this man accepted their offer because, given his and her position, the rumors about them would be bad and difficult. Marquise Aklid is dependent on public opinion, and the girl thinks how she just let go that her son was drawn into something like this. The guy then asks if she really had to shame him in public. The girl then sighs and claims that if he doesn't feel hot and is able to soberly assess the situation, then it's better to leave there, because scandals can arise even between cousins. The guy then asks if she is talking about the scandal, and if that is really the only thing she is afraid of. The girl understands that this was definitely not planned by the Marquise, and that her father hates her and therefore wants to tarnish her reputation. At this time, the guy asks what to do, since her fiancé is about to catch them together on the terrace. The main character wonders if Axion is there, after which someone opens the door to the terrace, and he looks at this in surprise, after which everyone turns their gaze to the Marquis and gets angry. The Marquis then says that this is the son of the Duchess of Ricade, and he shouldn't misunderstand. However, the blondes ignore the Marquis and ask if Anita has eaten anything. The girl then asks what about him, after which the guy replies that not yet and he is a little hungry, and then they leave together. The Marquis watches in shock. When the two leave the terrace, the Archduke asks if something really happened there. The girl replies no and asks if he thinks she wouldn't have done anything. After which the guy smiles and says that yes, and also in such situations one cannot remain inactive. The girl then tells Axion in her thoughts not to worry about anything related to her. After all, as long as she's near him, she feels warmth and everything will be alright. A little while later, the girl is already in the office. The butler approaches the young lady and asks if she called. The young lady tells him to sit down, but the butler refuses. After which the main character states that she does not want to repeat it twice and the man sits down. Anita claims that she will get straight to the point, after which she says that Arabella likes Jewel. The man then asks if this is true, after which he says that yes, and she is very sweet, which is probably why Miss Arabella liked her. The main character claims that she thought that she needed to prepare in advance. The butler replies that the lady is right, and asks if they will shop at the same store as always. The young lady replies that yes, and let him tell the mistress to visit her within 2 weeks. After all, she has a conversation with her, after which the man says yes, and also claims that it is already late at night, so let the lady not overexert herself in sleep. Anita wonders what's wrong with him, and apart from questions concerning the territory, she hardly does any work, so the butler should have known this. The man, meanwhile, claims that the lady always overloads herself with work, and even in areas he knows little about, she is very knowledgeable. The girl then becomes a little embarrassed, and the man says that perhaps he has no right to say such a thing, but he would like the lady to put herself first. The young lady then thinks that he is, as always, and also remembers how one night she was working on documents. Then the butler came into the room and asked the miss if she had gone to bed yet. The girl replied that, yes, it looks like the 5 main retail outlets, not counting Calypso, have joined forces. The man then asked the lady if she wanted to read some more, to which she replied, yes. Now the young lady says that the man worries about her too much, and 2 days later the girl is already heading to the place where the sacred ceremony will be held. The girl understands that a lot has happened in these 2 days, and the first was an incident on the road accessible only to the nobility. The man who was involved in this accident was one of the organizers of the ceremony and the one who took his place. Arabella seemed to have staged the whole thing. Meanwhile, the blonde lady insists the sky is dark, and she asks what will happen if it rains, but her mother says that everything is fine, because it is normal that it rains on the day of the ritual, because a divine being lives in the lake. The main character understands that they didn't even really tell the girl anything, and they probably planned this a long time ago. A little while later, the 3 of them get out of the carriage, and the Marquise turns to Anita, and he also wonders why she goes first. And because of her behavior, there are various rumors circulating. The girl then asks what these rumors are about her mother, and she replies that it is because of her actions, because everyone says that she is different from the rest of the Renati family. The brunette says that at first they reprimanded her for firing the maids who dared to speak like that, but now she is worried. So the young lady asks if she can know the reason, but the woman only gets angry. However, he takes control of his emotions and says with a smile on his face that it is clear that different situations develop inside and outside the estate. A little while later, they come to the place where the aristocrats are sitting, and the lady with the blonde hair is speaking. It seems like all the nobility is present at the ceremony. The girl is very nervous. Her mother puts her hand on her shoulder and asks what she's saying. Of course, everyone is there. The main character looks at her sister and remembers how she said she hadn't changed at all since that day, but everything around her had changed. After which she takes the lady with blonde hair by the hand and tells her to follow her, to which the girl agrees. As they move on, Arabella asks if something is wrong, but Anita replies that something is wrong with her, which surprises the girl. The main character claims that she's afraid of public speaking. The blonde lady asks if Anita remembers this. The young lady says that if she can't, she should tell her now, and she'll replace the girl. Anita also understands that her sister can make a mistake, so it's better for her to take it upon herself. Because for the imperial family, the sacred ceremony is considered a very important event. The lady with blonde hair at this time says that it's okay and she can handle it. The main character asks if she is sure, and the girl replies that she is very scared, but now it seems that she can definitely do it. After this, the two girls return back to her. The main character notices something, after which she thinks why it is so noisy there. At this time, one of the aristocrats says that it is a great honor for her to meet the Duke, and the other claims that he saw him at last year's banquet. The young lady understands that this is the Duke, and wonders if he has now begun to integrate into society. But then she does not understand why he reacted that way last time, and whether he really came to personally demonstrate his refusal to her. A little while later, the Emperor is already claiming that he is grateful to everyone for their presence at this event, and the main characters, looking at their sister, realize that she is behaving too strangely for normal excitement. After which, Anita places her hand on her sister's, and she thanks her. The Emperor suggests they begin the ceremony without further delay. He also tells Renati's daughter to come to him. The young lady is frightened by this, and the aristocrats ask why she doesn't come out and whether she is ignoring the Emperor's orders. After which the main character rises from her seat and heads towards the Emperor. She welcomes the great son and their empires and claims to be the second daughter of the Marquis Renati, named Anita. She also heard that 6 years ago, Lady Rome led the ceremony instead of the gentleman, so she would also like to take charge of the ceremony instead of her sister. The Marquise immediately jumps up from her seat and screams at the girl, after which she realizes that this is not polite and asks His Majesty for forgiveness, because this girl is very ambitious. One of the aristocrats says that His Majesty loves the Marquis's second daughter very much, even though she never made her debut. One of them also says that she caused a stir at the recent banquet, and will she really get away with it this time? At this time, the Emperor, with a smile on his face, asserts that he likes ambitious people, and the girl knows how to amuse him. After which he tells the girl to enter, as he gives her consent, after which she thanks the Emperor. The man then thinks that this long-awaited ceremony will be very interesting. The main character then goes up to the container with water, and when she turns to the people, she sees Axion there but realizes that she hasn't seen him at such a ceremony for a long time. She also looks at the Duke and wonders what's wrong with him, but at that moment, someone tells Anita to concentrate. The main character understands that it is a spirit, and asks how it got there, to which it replies that it came to help her. The girl mentally replies that it wasn't worth it and asks if he can really leave the lake so easily, to which he replies that in fact he was looking forward to this day. The girl says that it's good, and she doesn't know what's wrong, but she won't blame him. At this time, the little ball of light asks how much longer to wait, and offers the girl to lower her hand, to which she agrees. After which, some kind of stream begins to form from the water, and the main character mentally asks what the spirit is doing. At this time, he wonders if this was really before self-awareness was established. The aristocrats at this time look at the water that pours on them and say that these ships glow when they fall on their hands. At this time, the Emperor screams for the ritual to be stopped immediately, and the young lady begins to fall unconscious. The Archduke immediately runs up and grabs her. He recalls how, not long ago, someone had said that the location of Ashut's tears had been confirmed. Obiraj's eye was also found and purchased by merchants from Fodum. The boy then realizes that he thinks His Majesty has definitely bought it. And it's good that he spread rumors that he was looking for the luxurious necklace he gave Anita. One of the assistants then asked what they should do, and the Archduke said that he should first tell them to rejoice in the victory. after which he stated that it was time to go to the ceremony. Now the guy understands that it looks as if a high-frequency divine power is spreading, and she doesn't belong to Anita. Now the guy is carrying the lady in his arms and hoping she won't feel guilty when she wakes up. And also let her not think that it was because of her that he caught the eye of the emperor and even then attracted the attention of other people, because even at such a moment the emperor, she thinks he came out of anger over the loss of Obriage's eye. The protagonist opens her eyes a little while later, but realizes this is most likely not Renati's house. The girl also smells some kind of aroma and realizes that it is familiar to her, and when she turns around, then she sees the Archduke, who looks at her sadly. The young man then says that there is something she needs to hear from him. Anita then says that she also has something to say, but the guy says that everything is fine and suggests that they just keep quiet. However, the Archduke asks if she knows what he was thinking. Anita says that if that's why he looks like that, she doesn't want to hear it. After which the blonde man simply asks the girl to listen to him and claims that it is impossible to leave Lake Alkente alive. So at first he thought that the girl had divine power, but she didn't have it. The young lady then says that this is why they became friends, because even though they didn't live under the same roof, they grew up together. They also have a lot of common memories and promise that they could keep one secret from each other. So she finally suggests not saying anything, and the guy agrees. The young lady then looks at him, and he asks what it is, and the main character understands that when she sees Axion's tears, memories from her childhood come to her mind. Every summer, the Marquis and Marchioness went on vacation to a seaside cottage. She never left the capital. Then the Archduchess suggested that the girl go and see the sea sometime, which was the same color as Axion's eyes. And now the young lady looks at his eyes, and also understands that the Duchess said so, but she still thinks whether it is really the same color as the guy's eyes. The young man then just closes his eyes, and at that very moment the maid knocks on the door of the room and asks if she can come in. The Archduke claims that Anita has woken up and tells them to prepare food, to which the maid agrees. At this time, the main character turns to the guy and asks if he wanted to tell her something, to which he replies that not now, and that she should rest until breakfast is brought. A little while later, the maid brings food and the Archduke takes a spoonful of soup, then holds it out to the lady and tells her to say, "Ah." The guy also says that she probably has a lot of interests, so he will tell her everything slowly. And the young lady wonders if he will really answer one of her questions for one spoonful of food she eats. The young man smiles and says yes. A little while later, Anita is sitting on the bed. She also understands that if she thinks about it, it's very strange. Hey, why did she only think about breaking up? But the girl still understands that she will think about this after returning, because now something else is of primary importance. And it's also possible that she also has divine power, like Axion, and she needs to check it. The girl imagines a knife in her hand and understands that healing a wound in such a place takes about 2 days. And if the red liquid stops on its own, then this is already a success. The girl then carries her wounds and understands that it seems to her that the red liquid does not stop, and that she came out of the lake unharmed. And what happened at the ceremony could just be a coincidence, but when a drop of red liquid drips into the tea, then suddenly some kind of reaction begins to occur. The next morning, the Duchess walks down the corridor and asks the maid if Anita is awake. The girl replies that yes, and yesterday, after which the lady with blonde hair asks if everything is okay with her. The maid then enters the Mrs. room and claims that she has brought the mistress. But the woman immediately turns to Anita in surprise. The girl then only addresses her ladyship in response. But the woman just runs up to the lady and grabs her sleeve in the red liquid, after which she asks who dared to hurt her. The brunette replies that she simply thought that if she had divine power, then she would also have healing abilities. But it turns out she doesn't have a name. The woman then asks, with her hands half-heartedly guarded, why the girl did it. But she replies that it doesn't even hurt. After which the woman says okay. A little while later, they are already sitting down at the table, and the blonde says that as soon as the girl lost consciousness, the emperor suspended the ceremony. The sanctuary decided that this was because she had divine power within her, and the news spread among the aristocrats. She probably has a lot of invitations, and the woman is asking if she would like to stay there for a while because she will be very busy. The young lady then thanks the Duchess for telling her everything, and also for the invitation, but it is already quite late, so she needs to go back. She also claims that she never cares about the Duchess's care for her, so the woman then once again invites her to stay. She also claims that she always tried to respect her opinion, but looking back, she can say that she remained indifferent to everything that happened to her. The girl then says that if this were true, she would not love the Duchess so much, and she has business there, so she needs to return. The woman then says that it's fine, but first the girl needs to get better, and if something happens, she should immediately tell them. A little while later, the Archduke escorts the girl to the carriage, but when she gets in, he still does not let go of her hand. After which he tells her to wait a second and then kisses her hand. Anita is a little surprised by this, and the guy asks her to never forget that he worries about her every second. A little while later, the girl returns to the Marquis's estate, and her mother immediately hugs her, and also says that she must have suffered a lot. She claims they wanted to look after her themselves, but the Archduchess's family wouldn't let her go. The Marquis says he's glad the girl has returned in good health. Well, after this, the main character only moves on and realizes that if it weren't for Axion, she would have thought that they treat her this way because she had divine powers. The girl also recalls how the blonde man claimed that people from the sanctuary contacted Renati and that they had a meeting with the cardinal in the prayer room. The young lady realizes that the sudden changes in behavior and the secret meeting are connected. After which she finally apologizes and insists she's talking about a sacred ceremony, since she performed there in Arabella's place. The woman then tells Anita not to worry, and the main character understands that she ruined the opportunity to distinguish Arabella from the rest. But apparently, they still managed to get something valuable with her help. The Marquise says that since she has come home, she should rest, because it was probably hard for her in a strange place. The girl then says that she thinks they are thinking incorrectly, which surprises the two, and the young lady claims that she often visited there as a child, and that this is her future home. The Marquise then says that it is still too early, and the girl only adds that they should not touch her because they are far from close. After this, the woman starts crying and asks why she is so cruel, and why she was the one who extended her hand to her first, to which her husband replies that apparently the girl is very tired and not in the mood. At this point, the main character insists that she'll go to her room. She then enters the room and drops a red liquid into a glass of water. At that moment, a spirit appears in the air, and the young lady greets him. But he says that twice a day is difficult, and if she calls again, he won't be able to come for another week. The girl then apologizes, but the spirit tells her not to apologize and asks why Anita called him. After which, the young lady mentally reports that she called him through dark magic, and the spirit says that for sure, and she also did not wake up for some time, and all this is because he had to destroy the black magic inside her. Anita asks if he really had to destroy it, and dark magic is the complete opposite of divine power, and she also heard that they cannot coexist. The spirit claims that in her case the divine power is locked away, and it is a very strong magic, so it was probably cast as soon as she was born. The main character wonders if this is some kind of separate force, to which the little ball of light replies that he wouldn't have said that, because upon reaching a certain age, she would have gone somewhere. And Anita wonders if they've set a date for her to fall into eternal sleep. The little ball of light says that as soon as he finds out who did this, he'll make sure they can never drink clean water again. He also asks how the girl will now break all ties, to which she replies that she doesn't know, and there is no longer a reason for this. The main character also wonders if her parents were willing to sacrifice even their own child in order to find Arabella. And now it is important for her to find out who used black magic, and first she needs to understand how to cure the Archduchess from black magic. She will figure it out later. A little while later, someone knocks on the door of the room where the young lady is, and the girl tells the maid to come in, after which she claims she brought the lady an invitation. Anita tells her to leave it and go, but asks why she came of all people. The girl claims that the elder mistress was worried that a commoner was serving her, and she decided to replace her. Well, the main character says that this is not necessary, but the maid tells the mistress that if she just leaves now, the elder mistress will be upset. after which the girl asks if she doesn't care that she feels discomfort and that she is not at all embarrassed by such a change in duties. The main character then wonders if she really decided to come specifically to get something from her, because she knows very well how the girl treated Hari. After which, the main character hands her a gold coin, and the maid asks the mistress why she is giving her gold. Anita asks if she wants it, and it seems to her that the girl had a hard time, to which she says, how can she refuse what the mistress gives her personally, and does not tell the main game that she can now go, to which the girl agrees. She also understands that the marquise will constantly send her maids, but this will serve her in a useful way, and since they are trying to take advantage of her, she will take advantage of them. The next morning, the girl examines the invitation and realizes that there is a strange spelling of the family name, and there is no content on the invitation. After which, the main character wonders if it's really reacting to divine power. And when she sees that it's her, she realizes that this must be the very same paper written on that can only be seen by using Lowen's flower. Well, she's still wondering who even thought of sending such an invitation. At that very moment, someone knocks on the door. And when the lady with the blonde hair comes in, Anita asks what happened. The girl replies that she was worried about her, and the brunette claims that she heard that she also lost consciousness that day. Arabella apologizes and says that she fainted because he decided to go out in her place. Well, the main character tells her to stop apologizing for things that are not her fault, and asks if she even understands that sister took her place at this ceremony. The girl is then a little surprised, but claims that she simply does not like to be on other people's lips, so Anita decided to help her and went out in her place, and she asks her sister not to speak as if she did something bad to her. And Mom and Dad were very worried about her, so they went to the sanctuary, but unfortunately, they were not able to get holy water. The girl also claims that she knows that her parents are not very kind to her, but they were very worried. Anita then says what a naive girl this is, and rumors spread throughout the capital that she has divine powers. These rumors reach the sanctuary, and the girl knows that before Axion, a person with divine power had not been born for the last 300 years. Axion is the heir to the archduchy, but she is not from the imperial family, nor is she the daughter of an archduke or even a duke, but the second daughter of an ordinary marquis. So let Arabella think carefully. Hey Girl then asks if she thinks that they really went to the sanctuary because of the one who was worried about her. And also, doesn't she think that they just needed to make a deal? After which the blonde-haired flyer says that it's impossible, and he asks if sister wants her to prove that everything is not as she thinks. The young lady then replies that she can do as she pleases. The blonde lady then says she hopes Arabella isn't mad at her. The main character then says she can go, to which the girl agrees. Anita remembers the first time her sister lost consciousness. It happened 2 weeks after she came to the estate. The girl didn't fall often, and there wasn't any pattern to her falls. And when the main character began to suspect she had divine powers, she began to wonder if Arabella was losing consciousness because of her. The wind said he didn't know about it, but he imparted equally important information. The spirit claimed that even if her divine power was sealed, it was still perhaps escaping in bursts, and if it was her fault, it was unlikely to happen again. And she did understand how to control the divine power, after which the main character is shocked and wonders if she really understood. And she also remembers Axion, and then thinks that she doesn't know if Arabella lost consciousness because of her. But thanks to the Archduke, she learned to use divine power, and she understands that Axion said that he did not want to become a high priest, but he himself behaved with her like a temple servant. A little while later, the Duke is already asking what his assistant said, and did Anita Renati really respond? The next day, the main character is already sitting with the Duke. He says that they haven't seen each other for a long time, and that it's probably been 10 years, to which the girl replies that, yes, and exactly 10. The man then says that he didn't think that she would be able to decipher his letter, and the girl says that it wasn't easy. Therefore, she's interested in whether she interpreted the contents correctly, and the man asks what was written there, to which the girl replies that it was written there that he needed her divine power. The Duke replies that it is precisely the sacred relics that are in his possession that reject the divine power of the people of the imperial family, which is why the red liquid of the duchy did not work, and it is very secret, so he cannot ask for help even from the sanctuary. And he needs the divine power of the young lady, and it seems to her that she needs his talent for obtaining information, to which the young lady replies that this is so. After all, she's searching for Ashut's tears. The man says that, as she herself knows, such relics are very difficult to find. The girl asks if she understands correctly that this is a refusal, to which the Duke replies that of course he wouldn't, but he's simply hinting that he needs more time from her than searching. Anita asks how many times she'll need to use magic. She also says that in order to get on the trail of the relic, one time will be enough. But this is not fair, because they need to enter into an agreement with specific conditions. The man then asks how about 10 times, and the young lady remains silent, after which he asks her to give in. And she also claims that they will definitely find what she is looking for, so even 10 is not enough. Anita suggests stopping at 15, but if next time she asks him for something, he won't be able to refuse her and should promise it. The girl also claims that she has some problems because she does not know how to transmit divine power. The man only smiles after this, and also claims that he knows about it, so she shouldn't worry. He also takes out some kind of relic. The main character realizes it's Arianda's lamp. The man claims they have nothing in common that would inspire her trust, so he'll reveal his weakness to her. After which he also claims to be looking for his wife and child. The Archduke, meanwhile, is at his estate and addresses the commander of the knights. Rick claims that something unexpected happened, and he learned news about Lady Anita from an informant close to the Duke. The blonde then says that's how it is, and the commander of the knights says that perhaps the lady should refrain from visiting the duchy, since it is unlikely that Lady Anita will fall for his tricks, but still, exposing her to danger is not very good. The blonde says that everything is fine, and Anita will not allow herself to be manipulated, but she still needs to be careful. After which the guy says that the commander of the knights should assign a couple more people to the Duke who will be able to hide their presence well. After all, he needs to know his intentions in approaching Anita. The young lady, meanwhile, is looking at a box and wondering if she can accept it. Then she opens it and sees a necklace inside. She remembers asking the guy if he wanted to give her such a precious thing for no reason. The young man claimed he was trying to get it as a gift to her so he wouldn't need it, and perhaps she would find it useful in the future. He also handed her a book and claimed it was a copy of an encyclopedia of sacred relics. It shows what it looks like, its name, and a short description, as well as its features, and the book will help her. The main character then thanked Mr. Axion, and now she understands that with the help of Aubriage's eye, one can determine the authenticity of an object from a certain distance. The girl also once asked the guy if he'd found Ashut's tears. He replied that he hadn't yet, and that he'd probably have to look in antique stores. The main character thinks that if she has Aubriage's eye, it will help not only in finding Ashut's tears. Well, to get the information she needs, she first needs to complete the Duke's dialogues. She's currently reading an encyclopedia about Ariadne's lamp. It can help you find anything, but you need to provide specific and reliable information, and only then will it light your way. The young lady thinks that perhaps when the Marquis and Marchioness were looking for Arabella, they asked to find a girl born 19 years ago on May 4th in the 4th Estate on the Royal Road. Therefore, she needs precise information about the Duke's child and wife. At this point, the Marchioness enters Anita's room and addresses her, then offers to talk. A little while later, the two of them sit down at the table and the Marquise only smiles, and the young lady asks why she came at such a time. The woman asks if the maid she sent only to get dressed and tidy herself up is helping, to which the girl replies that she is, and understands that, as she thought, the woman touched on this topic. The Marquise then asks the girl if she wants her to send her another maid, and she will accept her. The young lady tells her mother that there is no need, because she has the feeling that she is taking away the maids. After which, the woman with a smile on her face asks why Anita thinks so and why it hurts her that she could not pay enough attention to her. Anita replies that she didn't ask for this attention, which makes the woman surprised, and the girl claims that she heard about it, that they went to the sanctuary to pray for her. After which, the Marquise asks how she found out, and the main character replies that her sister told her, after which the Marquise says what a great girl she is, and also feels embarrassed because the girl shouldn't have talked about this. The Marquise also asked if Anita would like to go with them to the sanctuary, because she would pray, and at the same time they would measure her divine power. The girl replies that she is not going to become a priestess or anyone else, so why should she do that, and she doesn't want to go there. The main character then also understands something, and she knew that the Marquise would not stop sending maids to her. but it will serve a useful purpose. One day, one of the maids came to the missus and claimed to have been sent by the headmistress, after which she asked if she could help with anything. The girl told her to get everything ready for her exit. Then she also turned to the maid and said that it seemed her mother was very worried. After all, she heard that she even went to the sanctuary, and they say that she was there today too, to which the maid replies that yes, and the main character puts her finger on the hairpin and says that she is worried not about whether she needs to go there often, and it is already hard for her, and it also seems that she took her maid away from her. The lady with green hair then says that the lady doesn't have to worry about it because she actually dates some people and it's never hard for her. The main character then smiles and asks who she is meeting there, to which the maid replies that she doesn't know. She also asks if the mistress saw the senior maid walking around with a bunch of documents, and they say that they were given by the one with whom the mistress met at the sanctuary. The main character understands that in order to win her over, the maid is openly lying, and the marquise considers all the maids her pawns. Except for Sabina, well, they are also people with wills and desires. So now this maid is happy that she conveyed completely unnecessary information to her, but she got from her everything she needed. Now the main character is sitting with the marquise and asks if she has finished. At this time, the emperor is trimming the leaves of the plant, and one of the servants enters the room. And he claims that a couple of days ago a carriage arrived in the duchy and left about an hour after the conversation. The emperor then asks who it was, to which the servant replies that it was Anita Renati. The man also asks what the conversation was about, to which the servant replies that he doesn't know. After which the emperor cries out how irritating all of this is and how it all makes him angry. After all, when it comes to the duke, he always knows nothing. A servant asks in a shaky voice if he wants him to assign someone to Anita Renati. The man says that she is very smart, and this will arouse unnecessary suspicion. He also insists that Marquise Renati must be disposed of, and that his weak point be found. The servant replies that he will obey. The man thinks that Anita too possesses divine powers, and the Duke is looking for just such a person to use Ariadne's lamp. But he'll soon give in. At that moment, someone approaches Miss and claims she's received an invitation from the Ricade family. The girl asks if it really arrived so quickly, to which the servant replies that it did, and says that with her permission, he will give her the letter. Well, the young lady tells him to wait, and claims that she wants to ask him for a favor and then inquire if he can perform it. The servant replies that, of course, and the girl says that she asks for only one thing, and this is about him getting her papers from the department that deals with the documents of aristocrats. A little while later, the man is already heading there, and on the way the maids greet him, but he just passes by and understands that when the miss asked him for a favor, he already suspected something, but I couldn't even imagine things would take such a turn. A little while later, the guy knocks on Mrs. door and claims to be him. But when no one is there, the man understands that the lady is probably now in the Archduchy of Rakid. After which, he also remembers asking Miss why she suddenly asked him about this. The girl replied that there was no reason and that she was simply curious. The servant realized that perhaps she already knew everything. And Miss Stein never showed her tears, but when she sees this, she will definitely be very upset. At this time, the main character is sitting with the Archduke and asks if he personally mixed everything, to which the guy replies that yes. After which the young lady says that she is trying this tea for the first time and she really likes it. The blonde then asks if he can tie up her hair because there is a wind blowing from the street. After which the girl agrees and asks if she'll need a rubber band. The Archduke remarks that a handkerchief will suffice, to which the lady smiles and says yes, and that he has very nimble hands. The brunette also insists that she needs to confess to him. The guy then asks what it is, after which she claims that she is under the influence of black magic. And because of this, she constantly wanted to distance herself, but it seems that this is not the only reason. After all, she wanted to be happy. The Archduke finishes tying her hair and tells her to do so. After all, her influence among the Renati is now great, so she can get whatever she wants. The young lady is then a little surprised, after which the Archduke tells her to use it. A little while later, the girl is already reading documents that outline the content of the conversation between the Marquis and Marchioness Renati in the sanctuary. But the Duke insisted he didn't want these people to harm her. But the girl understands that The more time it takes to find information, the less time she'll have left for further action. At this time, the servant turns to Mix and claims that he has brought the documents she requested. The girl then tells him to come in, and the servant enters the room but still remains silent. The main character tells him to give her these documents, after which Philip does so. But he tells Miss that he hopes it won't hurt her too much. The girl claims that these people are worse than trash, and she knew it. Anita also says that the butler did a great job and can now go. The man then agrees, but hands the young lady something else and says that she might not need it. But let the lady accept it anyway. The main character thinks that's why he was so worried, and she wonders if the sanctuary will now take custody of her. After all, the documents brought by Axion and the butler are identical. Because she has not yet reached adulthood, her parents make all the decisions for her, so it was so important to settle all the matters urgently. Firstly, in exchange for the sanctuary having control over her, they will be able to return all their donations, and secondly, Arabella's engagement will be conducted by an unusual priest and high priest. Thirdly, even if the girl comes under the protection of the church, they will not deprive her of the Renati name. Now the young lady is wondering who could have thought that the people called her parents are so insignificant and vile, and whether they are really her parents at all. After Arabella's disappearance, the Marquise lived in a country house for 3 years, and the girl was born prematurely. There was no time to call a midwife, so Sabina had to deliver the baby. The girl had thoughts that she might be the Marquis' illegitimate child, since outwardly she had nothing in common with her parents. And she wasn't the only one who thought this way. As soon as her life in high society began, the scandalous rumors spread more and more. But the girl believes that if she were truly an illegitimate child, the Marquise would not have allowed her into society, and besides, Sabina is the Marquise's right-hand woman. At that very moment, someone knocks on the young lady's room, and she asks what it is, after which she sees a sparrow on the window. She unties the letter on his leg, after which the bird flies away, and the main character, looking at the letter, sees that it is from the Duke and it is written there, so that the girl does not forget that the Ricade family is always on her side. The young lady understands that it is Axion, after which she thinks that it is good and she will remember. The girl takes the key in her hands and, opening the box, realizes that it is an artifact that can be used to transmit a short message, and that is all she needs now. The main character then begins to use this device and turns to Vanessa. He also says to let the girl anonymously deliver the documents she gave her last time to the tax office. Vanessa asks if that's even possible, and yet it's Renati. The girl says yes, and they need to report the Renati couple. The next day, the Marquis already heading off somewhere. He also understands that he finally called him to him. The man also remembers what happened 18 years ago. Then the Emperor said that the Marquis was the first one he thought of, and his loyalty left a big mark on his memory. The man understands that very important matters can only be entrusted to loyal subjects like him, but soon they almost stopped seeing each other, which worried him greatly, but it turned out that there was no need to worry, because if the Emperor had not been generous to him, he clearly would not have asked for tax evasion. Now the man, in shock, turns to His Majesty and tries to explain. But the Emperor says that if he is trying to justify himself, then it is not worth it. After which the Marquis wonders why the Emperor raised the issue of non-payment right now. It had always been known, but he simply turned a blind eye. His Majesty asks who the Marquis thinks he is, and whether he underestimates him. The man replies that this is not so, and then His Majesty cries out where all this money went. The Marquis claims that all this was done in order to find Arabella. Ariadne's lamp was kept in the sanctuary, and borrowing it required a huge sum of money. The Emperor also asks whether the market had to do this out of desperation, to which he replies that this is indeed the case. After which the Emperor hands him one of the documents and asks what it is. And is this also to find his daughter? The blonde insists that if the Marquis had confessed honestly, he would have made concessions. The Marquis understands that if the Emperor forgives him for this matter, then he must be prepared to give up everything that their family currently owns. At this time, the Emperor only tells the man to leave, which surprises him. His Majesty says that he cannot calmly look at a man who has been brazenly lying to him all this time, so let him go to the outskirts with his wife, and also wait for his forgiveness, and not even allow the thought of returning to the capital. The Marquis then cries out to His Majesty that he himself knows how important it is for the aristocracy to be in the capital. He also shouts that he will give His Majesty everything he wants, a mine on the outskirts of the treasure, and more. But the Emperor interrupts him and says that he is only an ordinary Marquis, and what can he offer to satisfy his requests? The Marquis then asks if he is really an ordinary Marquis, but he also tells His Majesty that he personally ordered it. His Majesty then uses his power on the Marquis, who coughs and begs for forgiveness. The Emperor says he's a pathetic man, incapable of keeping a secret. At this time, the main character is drinking tea with her sister, and the lady with blonde hair asks how she is doing. Anita says the tea has a slightly bitter aftertaste, but the aroma and flavor are pronounced. Arabella asks if that's a compliment. The main character says that next time she will do even better than her sister says that she already wants to try. At this time, someone knocks on the room and then enters, and it turns out to be the Marquis. He immediately throws the mug of tea on the floor and screams at Anita to come and beg. The lady with blonde hair asks her father what happened and tells him to stop, but the man cries out that he tells her to go and beg, and also slag to His Majesty. The Marquis then enters the room and asks why it is so noisy, but the man only says that it is all because of Anita, after which he even raises his hand and is about to hit her, but the lady with blonde hair stands in front of her sister, and the man doesn't hit her on purpose, after which her mother and father immediately run up to her and ask if everything is okay. The Marquis apologizes to his daughter and claims that he didn't even notice that she was there, but the girl tells her father that this is not right, because Anita was also hurt, and she hit her hand, and she may also have a fracture. The man says the bone will heal, and the young lady's mother asks what to do about her cheek. Arabella says her sister is in much more pain than she is, but the Marquis says she shouldn't have made that mistake. Arabella tells her mother that they just arrived, and asks if they're really blaming Anita without fully understanding the situation. The blonde lady claims that Anita drank tea with her, and she said that she did well. But the young lady's mother cries out, "Is Arabella a servant, and why is she looking after her?" The main character tells Arabella to get out, but the woman only says that she only needs to look at this girl, because Arabella worries about her and does nothing but give orders. The lady with the blonde hair then asks them to stop, but the Marquise only screams out what Anita told Arabella and why she is so upset. The main character then sighs and asks if the Marquis really has memory problems, and she did ask her sister to leave. Then she turns to Arabella and says she's serious. The blonde then agrees with her sister. And the Marquise screams for Arabella to wait and asks where she is going, after which they are left alone. And the Marquise asks what the girl just did, but the main character asks if it's okay that they can ruin her mood now, and asks what her father thinks. The Marquis then insists he needs to speak with Anita alone. The woman then tells the man to discuss everything with her first. But the man screams that it is very urgent, after which the two begin to quarrel. The main character understands that the Marquise apparently does not yet know what is happening in the Renati family. But at that very moment, a lady with blonde hair comes into the room and asks her mom and dad if they could step out for a second. The man then asks his daughter what happened, and she claims that she called a doctor because Anita needed help. The Marquis then asks if Anita wants to be treated, after which the main character says that they should talk for now, but she needs to see a doctor. A little while later, the Marquise cries out, "Do they really need to return to the outskirts?" The Marquis then sighs and insists that he told her, and the Emperor learned of the tax evasion and issued such an order. His wife then asks what he could have done to His Majesty that he would have meted out such a harsh punishment. The man screams to let her know that all this happened because of her whims and desire to live in luxury. But why does he blame only her for the loan? After all, she is the head of the family, and she had no other choice. The man then whispers to his wife that maybe they could tell the shrine about this so that, in exchange for the thing they were promised, they could ask for the Emperor's pardon. But the woman replies that no, and if they do so, the Emperor will find out that they made a deal with the sanctuary because of Anita, and she is sure that His Majesty chose her as the crown princess. But at this rate, they will lose the trust of both the temple and the imperial family, so the Marquise asks what they should do. The man then says that this is why he went to Anita, because His Majesty values her. The woman then understands how the man said that it was a pity that he rarely saw her since she did not have an official debut, after which he also asked if it was time for them to arrange this event. And now the Marquise says yes, and His Majesty has always shown affection for Anita. The Marquise says that the doctor probably left, so he will go. Hey, the woman said that last time the girl was rude to her. The man also says that he will take advantage of this and teach her a good lesson, and the Marquise says that she believes in him. A little while later, the main character is sitting with the Marquis, and he says that he came because there was business that she had to take care of. The girl understands that he was being too aggressive for a person who came with a request and asks what this important matter is, but the man claims that first he wants to warn her about something, and he heard that the girl is often rude to her mother. The young lady then understands that he has decided to put pressure on her and wonders if he really does not want to bow his head to her and ask her like a human being. The man says she's dressed decently and tries hard, and it's all thanks to him. But the main character interrupts him and says she understands. The Marquis then asks what she understood, and the young lady asserts that if he does not want to spend money on her, then she can leave, and let them compare the money that was spent before with the amount that she brought into the family, and if it is not enough, then let them send a bill. The man then clenches his fist and asks what she is talking about, but the girl suggests he announce the main reason for their visit. The man says she's being rude and that it's bothering him further, so he decided to tell her, so let her request an audience with the emperor. He's very angry about the tax evasion, and if it continues, they'll lose the funds collected from their territory. The girl understands that they plan to pay a large sum to obtain the emperor's pardon. After all, their current state isn't sufficient for this, so their plans include exploiting the territory's residents. The girl claims she doesn't know if he's aware of it. But if they exploit residents for such purposes, then they will have to return 3 times more to them. The Marquis then cries out that it only turns out that she will allow their family to be made a laughingstock, but the girl asks if he wants her to go and tell the emperor that they will return the losses and therefore there is no need to make a big deal out of it. The man replies that no, and tells her to do anything so that they are not sent to the region. The young lady then inquires whether it turns out the emperor simply ordered them to leave. The girl also understands that His Majesty turned a blind eye to the tax fraud and that the Marquess hadn't expected anything like this. But who would have thought that he would have such a violent reaction? After which the man says that this happened because of the search for Arabella. And the girl knows perfectly well how much they wanted to see her again. Anita replies that, yes, she remembers that too. She will also submit a request for an audience with the emperor, and will most likely be able to attend this meeting in a couple of days. The girl is also angry and wonders if he really did this to find her sister, and that this is not the only thing she spent money on. That's why now she doesn't even feel guilty. And it's not because the Marquis lied to her first, because perhaps some of her qualities are just as ugly as his. A couple of hours later, the girl goes to the emperor and thinks, who could have imagined that the audience would take place today? And she decided that His Majesty would not agree because it could hurt his pride, but he was probably still curious about why she submitted the request. At that moment, a young lady entered the emperor's room, and he greets her, and the girl says that she is glad to meet His Majesty. The man then claims that he hopes the Marquis hasn't said anything strange. The girl then asks what he's talking about, to which the emperor replies that he must have made a mistake and that she should understand, but he has no intention of rescinding his punishment. Anita replies to His Majesty that yes, she knows he's forgiven a lot. The man says that just like the main character, she understands that it is clear from his look that he is testing her, and he wants to know why she came. The girl then hands His Majesty the envelope and claims that this is the real reason she requested an audience. The man asks what it is, to which the girl replies that her parents want to give her to the sanctuary. The emperor then asks in shock if they really want to do this. He also wonders who would dare send her to the temple, and the girl replies that she is still a minor, so she has no choice, and can only obey her father's will. The man asks if the Marquis planned all of this, but also wonders why she is showing him these papers and whether she really needs his help. The young lady smiles after this and understands that he must have already thought that he could become her savior, but she wanted to ask him about something completely different. After which the girl tells His Majesty that it may sound impudent, but she is able to solve the problem related to her parents herself. The emperor then starts laughing out loud, and the girl claims that she just wanted to repay her debt. After all, her abilities could be useful in the future for managing the family, and he gave her the opportunity to learn about this power. When he allowed her to perform the ritual in her sister's stead, the man insisted it wasn't even considered a duty, since if she didn't possess divine powers, it would have ended with a simple ceremony. Anita realizes that his reaction is better than she expected, and that he really understood what she meant. The man claims he didn't realize they had already taken her documents and had contacted the sanctuary, and her parents are so quick, so it turns out he should act as quickly as possible. Anita thanks His Majesty and understands that he understood exactly what she asked him for. The man claims that he will take care of the affairs of the sanctuary, so she does not have to worry. He also wanted to discuss another topic with her. A short time later, the girl returns to the estate, and her father asks what kind of tea she'd like. Anita replies that the conversation is short, so there's no need for tea, and the man replies, well, that's how it is. He also doesn't want any. The Marquis claims that the emperor has reduced the amount to be reimbursed, but he wonders what has happened to their place of residence. The girl then tells him to ask questions one by one. The man then agrees, but still asks about their place of residence. Anita claims that, firstly, the amount of compensation remained the same, and the man is shocked. The girl claims that he has no right to return to the capital until His Majesty asks him to. The Marquis, shocked, asks what the girl is talking about now and cries out what is the point of her audience. Anita says that something has changed and now he is not the head of the family. The Marquis asks, puzzled, what she is talking about, and the girl says that not from now on. After all, the decree will be ready tomorrow, and today the emperor decided who will take control of the Renati family, and that person will be her. The man then cries out, asking what she was talking about, and even if it was an order from the emperor, he had no right to decide such matters. So how dare she disrespect him? The brunette then asks if he really thought she didn't know he wanted to sell her to the sanctuary, and that now the emperor knows about it too. The Marquis, with shaking hands, asks if it turns out that she reported everything to him, and cries out how she even dared to do this. The girl, smiling, asks what's going on, and that a father can use his child, but she can't. The man then extends his hand and cries out, can he really be her father? However, before he can finish the sentence, he grabs himself by the neck and falls to the floor, and the girl realizes that he is caught. The Marquis looks at the girl in shock and realizes that this is definitely black magic, and at that moment he claims that she is not his child. The man then asks in shock what she is talking about, and that is not true, so if she wants to know why him. The main character at this time realizes that they both used her because she is not their biological daughter, and no matter how hard she tried, she never received praise from them. And the Marquis did nothing but slap her with these hands, so now the young lady is approaching the man. After which he slaps him, and also understands that it is time to use the same methods as they do. The girl claims that this is a simple question and asks who suggested him to use black magic. But the man cries out that he does not understand what she is talking about. But at that very moment he gets another slap in the face, and the girl asks how many people are involved in this. The man says it is impossible, and the young lady states that she will ask another question. And he also wonders if the Marquis knows that she is not his biological child. The Marquis screams that she knows, after which the lady continues to hit him in the face. And he also says that this time he answered the question, but she hit him because she wanted to. The man then screams that her parents were definitely some kind of beggars, and she should be grateful that she was able to live like an aristocrat, but then he coughs, and the young lady wonders if he will truly fall into eternal sleep. The Marquis then asks if she spoke of selling her child to the sanctuary, and insists that such a thing never happened. He also simply wanted her to live in better conditions. The girl understands that this is a prohibition, and that as soon as a person violates black magic, It erases all memories from the head, and even if everything is revealed against the person's will, he can only voice some of the information. The brunette understands that it turns out that not only black magic was used there, but also a prohibition, and she will not be able to learn anything more from the Marquis. Then the young lady tells the man not to worry about her sister, but when he moves away a little, the girl asks what is wrong, because she is also his child and the girl is her sister, so what can she do with her? Anita also says that they should watch their actions, as she could easily change her mind. The girl imagines the man's finger and suggests that maybe he remembers. But she thinks that 10 years ago she had the same expression on her face as he did. Although she was very young, she studied well under his strict guidance, so she thinks that he fully understands what she wants to tell him now. That night, the girl also goes somewhere and realizes that these people weren't her real parents, and that's why they allowed themselves to be so cruel. Black magic isn't easy to cast, and a ban is even more so since her real parents either lost her or abandoned her. But ultimately, she wasn't part of the Renati family. The girl was so consumed by family affairs that sometimes red fluid would come out of her nose. But her parents only said that she would still be the head of the family, and if the family's fortune increased, it would be to her advantage. But even knowing that it was all a lie, the girl tried so hard to earn their praise, so now she thinks how stupid she is and how they just used her. The young lady then says that she didn't think anyone was watching her, and also claims that she has already seen the person, so let him come out. It turns out to be the young lady's sister, and she apologizes, claiming she simply noticed her sister leaving and wanted to talk. The brunette asks what Arabella wanted to tell her, after which she apologizes with tears in her eyes, and the main character asks what she's talking about. She then apologizes to the blonde-haired ones for not understanding everything right away. She should have figured it out herself. Anita wonders if the girl is really worried about the Marquis' aggression towards her, and that she's crying over such nonsense. Arabella. Then she tells her sister that she came to her aid every time, but she did nothing in return. But the main character pushes the girl away and tells her not to be mistaken because she helped her only because she is Renati, and if she were just Arabella, the girl would not do anything. After which, the brunette also claims that she was the one who reported the tax evasion and didn't even think about it. The blonde lady asks if this is true, to which her sister replies that it is, and also that she's not as good a person as the girl thinks. But Arabella at that very moment rushes at her sister, after which she hugs her and claims that she doesn't care about it, because sister has suffered so much, and it was also hard for her. The blonde lady also says she knew nothing, but now understands what she had to endure. A little while ago, one of the maids approached the missus and said she had only recently begun her training, but was already doing so well. The girl then replied that she was unlikely to be as successful as her sister. Well, the maid asked if she was talking about Miss Anita, since she had studied history, ancient languages, economics, politics, and tax law. The lady with the blonde hair then asked what about art, and that she was learning to play instruments and also studying plants. After which the maid said that Miss Anita had no predisposition in this area, and that the mistress had said so, so she herself had taught her ethics. But when the blonde lady looked at her sister during the meal, she realized she was following the rule of not moving cutlery more than 10 times per meal. She recalled the maid's words about how the mistress herself coached Mistress Anita during the meal. Then she looked at her mother and wondered if she too followed the rules of etiquette. But the woman ate as she pleased and didn't even care about etiquette. The young lady also realizes that all this time she had no idea what had happened to her fake family who had taken her in. One day, the girl came to them. There she saw her adoptive mother and sister, who asked why Bibi had only just arrived. The girl then asked if her letters hadn't reached them, and why so many of her sisters were in such a state. Arabella realized she had been in the dark. As they sat at the table, the woman apologized and claimed she was so happy to see her that she'd called her by a different name. But she couldn't do that anymore, and thanks to the money Miss Anita had given them, they would soon be able to leave the area, so Miss Arabella shouldn't come there again. Now the young lady hugs her sister and realizes she had no idea about all this. She then turns to Anita, apologizes, and thanks her. The next day, a carriage pulls up to the Marquis' estate, and the protagonist sees her parents off. She also turns to her mother and says that she sees she loves this knight very much since she decided to take him along, even though he was the one who dared criticize her. The woman claims that there was apparently a mistake in the list, after which the main character says that they should bring the list, to which the maid agrees and then gives the lady the papers. The brunette then points out that he was the very first one signed up, and since the woman said it was a mistake, she'll send him to training camp. The marquise then turns around and gets angry. At that moment, someone else turns to Anita and asks if she can have a word. It turns out to be a lady with blonde hair, and she claims she also wants to leave, after which the protagonist asks why. She also mentions how a maid told her she overheard the marquise saying that Arabella should remain in the capital, and, if she gets into trouble, she should ask Lady Oakland for help, to which the girl agreed. But now she claims she feels Anita doesn't want to see her because she's so much like her parents. The main character says that if that's the only reason, then she doesn't have to go, but Anita only insists she'll be back in a month, and wants to see her sister rested and full of energy. Anita says that she is not obliged but understands that it would be a good idea to send the girl away from the capital because now that the Renati spouses are far away, it will be easier for Lady Oakland to get to her. After which the main character says that, yes, she also thinks that it would be better for her sister to leave, otherwise Lady Oakland will torture her, to which the girl agrees, after which she says to open the doors to the carriage because she will go with them. The marquise is then surprised and asks why Arabella is doing this, but the girl only wishes Anita good luck with a smile on her face, after which they all leave together. The young lady, watching them go, also wishes her sister good luck. They'll see each other in a month. A short time later, the main character is also heading off somewhere in a carriage. And when he goes into another one, he sees a lady with red hair there, who tells the owner that they haven't seen each other for a long time. Anita asks what happened to her request, to which the girl replies that she found out everything, and therefore prepared the carriage, and the lady asked to find a pharmacist, so she became worried, deciding that she was unwell. Currently, the most famous pharmacist is a man named Edwin, who is said to be sponsored by Count Daniil. Anita claims to know of this man and that her mother often consulted him. The red-haired lady says yes, and they say he's popular among the aristocracy. If someone has two illnesses at once, it's quite difficult to identify them, but this pharmacist always identifies them flawlessly. The lady with red hair also tells the owner that it seems they have already arrived, and when she tried to sign up, he did not agree and waited for her to raise the price, but now she understands that he is like this with everyone, and apparently this man loves money. The main character, looking at the estate, says that it's even more luxurious than she thought. He claims that aristocrats visit it, and this guy is probably quite arrogant. Meanwhile, the main character gets out of the carriage and tells the girl to wait for her there. When she enters the building, she is immediately greeted by a pharmacist named Edwin, who also says that he did not think that the younger Mrs. Renati would visit him. The main character looks at the girl standing nearby and realizes she's already left the tea, but why is she still standing there? The man tells Mrs. Renati to ignore him, as the maid works for him. The main character then asks if he will let her go, and also remembers how the lady with red hair said that the strangest thing is that during the reception there is always a maid nearby, and the main character asked if the clients have anything against it. To which her interlocutor replied that if she asked him to be alone, he would start to demonstratively get indignant and say that he couldn't concentrate any other way. Now the man claims that if he sends her away, the consultation will be difficult because he has a disorder and is used to seeing the same environment, but it is not surprising that everyone considers geniuses to be weirdos. The young lady realizes that this is the girl Vanessa mentioned, and the man claims that his maid is not yet experienced enough, which is why the tea has such a strange taste, but when she learns to do her job well. However, the main character interrupts the man and asks if it is possible to ask the maid to stand in a different place, since she does not like it when someone stands behind her, to which the pharmacist says that it is fine, since they will do so, after which he points out where the maid should stand. He also asks if the lady is happy with everything now. The girl replies that it's great and asks if he can identify illnesses by their symptoms, to which the man replies that of course, and asks who she thinks he is. The young lady understands that it is dangerous to reveal the truth about the Duchess's illness from the very beginning, and that it is necessary to check whether information will leak, so she will talk about the symptoms of Fenrose disease. The black-haired woman says the patient has been experiencing sudden fainting spells and coughing up red fluid. The man insists this isn't enough to diagnose the illness and asks if there are any other symptoms. The main character is then about to say something else, but she realizes that he used a magical object and she doesn't know why, but she feels it, and although it's pure intuition, she is sure. The girl then says that when the patient gets up, his legs shake and asks if there are any other symptoms, to which the man replies that right now he can only remember 3 diseases, and asks if there is anything else. After which, the young lady mentions that she's having digestive problems. She also notices the maid fiddling with her pocket, and the man says that if that's the case, it's Espen's disease. After which she mentions that she also remembered the patient's poor appetite. The maid, hearing this, immediately starts writing something else in her pocket, and the pharmacist then says it must be Fenro's disease. Anita says he recognized it so easily, and it's simply astounding. To which the man replies that's why they came to him, and that the medication is ready for freedom by 4 o'clock in the evening. The main character says she's unlikely to be able to come, but she can pick it up in about 4 days. The man then says, okay, since Junior Mistress Renati is asking him to be on top, let it be as he wishes, after which the girl says she'll go. She also understands that this sound was transmitted in a certain sequence through a magical object, which means that the maid is involved. The young lady thinks that if he sends the maid away, he will be unable to advise her. 2 days later, the girl is already at the Duke's estate. One of his confidants apologizes, saying that the master has urgent business to attend to. The young lady realizes this is odd, as it wasn't the servant who brought the tea. She also wonders if the Duke won't be coming, after which his confidant replies that he won't and will be there soon. The young man also says that the lady is probably bored sitting there and waiting, so he asks to be shown the estate. After which they head off, looking around the estate, and the main character realizes that this is how little children have fun. But who would have thought that she would experience this at that age? However, this guy is more cheerful than he seemed, and she didn't even notice how time passed. They approach another room, and the servant suddenly falls silent, after which he suggests they move on. The heroine agrees, after which the Duke's confidant says he wants to show her their beautiful garden. But when the boy steps forward, he sees his master, who merely tells Nade to step aside. The servant immediately obeys him and steps aside, after which the Duke turns to the lady and looks at the door to that room, and also asks what she is doing there. Nad turns to the owner and says he showed the girl around the estate, after which the Duke is silent for a moment, and then sighs. He also says that he hopes that next time the girl will refuse herself, because he hates it when strangers roam the estate, to which the young lady agrees and also thinks that, in truth, it is not surprising that he is so unhappy, and she doesn't even understand why the butler feels guilty about her. Nade apologizes to the lady, but the girl interrupts him mid-sentence, insisting that she will be more careful in the future to avoid making the same mistake as today. The man then apologizes to the lady and says he was too harsh, but says he doesn't need to apologize. The Duke also says that in that case, she should have told him why he was saying such hurtful words, knowing the whole situation. The main character asks him this. Afterwards, the man apologizes and claims he was wrong, and for a moment he loses his ability to think and asks if she will forgive him. Anita replies yes, after which the Duke turns and tells her to come with him, as she's the first stranger he'll show this to. Nade turns to the host, a little worried, but he merely says that the lady can consider it a privilege since they're now in the same boat. He also asserts that it's not as if the room is some incredible place, and that it's simply used to store portraits. The Duke's confidant says that at the time, the owner was quite the hooligan, unlike the lady. But the man says he still has nightmares from that period, and the main character asks if that's true. As they continue walking, the man points to a portrait of the house's previous owner. He also says that 20 years ago, he left his family and another load with him, and moved away from the center. The butler then exclaims, "Did the gentleman really just call him a thunderstorm?" The young lady realizes that he has red eyes, and that on the day she dedicated herself to the estate for the first time, the services were rendered to her, who was the daughter of the Marquis, without enmity. They simply looked embarrassed when their eyes met, and they smiled at her. Then the young lady thought they were probably uncomfortable with her, but it turned out she reminded them of the previous Duke. The man points to his wife and asks if she's cute. The main character looks at this woman. She understands that she reminds her of someone, and the man claims that in real life she is still charming and it is impossible to take your eyes off her. The main character remembers how the Duke said that he was looking for his wife and child, after which she tells the Duke that today she will lend him her power without restrictions. The man claims that this is exactly what he wanted to hear, showing her the room and asking if he looked too pathetic. Anita replies that no, he is the head of the only duchy in the empire and lives comfortably. But she senses what he feels. Having learned of the existence of a true family, she understands him. Meanwhile, the man insists he won't refuse, and thanks Anita. A short time later, they're already near the artifact, and the man claims that the last time they launched it, it's half filled with divine power, so he's grateful to the girl. The Duke also says that he heard that Marquis Renati had problems, because of which he was exiled to the region. The servant only turns to the master and asks how he can touch upon such things. Well, the man just asks if it wasn't the girl who planned everything, to which the favor is surprised. And the young lady understands that she thinks now there is no need to pretend to be a good girl, because anyway, the Duke will think that she did it because she wanted to send them somewhere far away. She also thinks what she should say now about the servant, but he only cries out, "What kind of person is this Marquis if Anita had to do this?" Although he should have suspected something when he found out that she had been involved in the family's affairs since childhood. At this time, the main character is thinking how strange this house is. And the Duke asks the Marquis's daughter for forgiveness because his butler speaks well of her, despite the fact that they met only recently. This brings back good memories, but the girl still understands that the Duke only needs her divine power. The man at this time claims that coyotes will soon appear, who will be aiming for the place of the leader, but if the Emperor himself gave the order, then for now it will be quiet, but it will not last long. The main character says that this is probably true, and the man asks if it was worth it for her to go down such a difficult path. After all, if she says that the duchy is on her side, then all the scum will tuck their tails and hide, and also there is very little time left until she comes of age, so the man asks if she wants him to become her guardian. Anita is surprised by this and asks what he is talking about, but understands that in this case, she will have to be wary of Lady Oaklet. The servant turns to his master and tells him to use polite language, after which he asks what scum means. The master simply asks if he's wrong, since that's how it is. The main character simply thanks him for the offer. Well, the man insists he was completely serious. The servant then tells his master that it wouldn't hurt him to be cool-headed like a lady sometimes, even if she weren't so young, she still wouldn't accept his sudden offer. But the man says that's why he offered to be her guardian and not her godfather. The servant insists that if the master had suggested that, he would have shut him down in an instant. And the Duke at this time remembers how the girl claimed that she thought she felt the same thing that he felt, after which he also remembers how she thanked him for the offer with a smile on her face, and now he claims he's just having thoughts. But the servant insists that Anita Renati is their man, and besides, he has nothing against her, but once the deal is over, he'll have to stay away from her. The man says that, yes, and perhaps the girl is not their person, and it would be right not to support their relationship. After all, he knows she's the Emperor's favorite. A couple of days later, the girl is already heading somewhere, and when she's at the door, she hears someone asking if he can meet. The young lady immediately opens the door, and the pharmacist announces that the lady has arrived. The protagonist realizes the atmosphere was extremely strange, after which they sit down at the table and the man says he'll give her a brief explanation. After all, the red and blue pills should be taken in the morning after eating, and the green one after dinner. If there is no effect, then the lady should come again, but most likely the drug should work. The main character, with a smile on her face, says that she has heard about his outstanding abilities, after which she tells him to open the box, and the man asks what is in there, but then screams in shock because he sees a whole mountain of gold coins. Anita insists she wants to trust him with another case, and the pharmacist asks her to talk, because how could he refuse her? The girl then remarks that the tea seems to have cooled down, after which the man immediately yells at foreign and asks why she's standing there, and whether she didn't even notice how cold their guest's tea had gotten. The girl is only frightened by this and apologizes, and the main character at this time turns to the pharmacist and tells him to listen. After which, she asks why he started shouting in front of her, because he should have been in control since he was sitting opposite her. The man then asks for forgiveness, and the maid pours new tea into the mug, after which the pharmacist asks if he can hear the lady's situation. The girl then says that she is interested in something, and the man also said that he feels uncomfortable without a maid, after which he asks, what if she suddenly quits her job? But he merely tells the lady, with a smile on his face, not to worry, because this maid will always work for him. The protagonist then hears the magical instrument working again, and the maid writes down the pharmacist's promise, just as he promised he would keep it. The brunette understands that he apparently has information on her, after which she claims that this case is connected with the illness of one of her acquaintances, and she is constantly bothered by pain in her shoulders and teeth. The man at this time is only a little angry, and writes to the maid that he said that everything is fine, and is interested in whether she really thinks that it is as easy as it seems, since she has become the lady's favorite maid. Anita understands that the maid does not answer anything about the illness, so he is also silent, after which she keeps asking him what his fingers are doing, and the man immediately raises his hand and asks for forgiveness, and also claims that when he thinks, he develops a nervous tic. He won't remember the name of this disease, but in 2 days he will be able to prescribe her medication, after which the main character agrees, and also asks if he could lend her his maid. She's arrived alone, but she's afraid of getting lost on the way in the carriage. The man agrees and says, of course. The young lady then sets off with the maid, and when they've gone a little further, she says the signaling is unique, and it must have been difficult to come up with this code. The brunette also says that she thinks it's better for the girl to trust her than the swindling pharmacist. The maid then asks how the lady found out, but she only claims that she is amused by the fact that no one has yet paid attention to this.